right through this hospital till he gets me.
Wait a minute, for God's sakes.
You know how many people are dead because of me?
Not because of you, because of him. Don't do that to yourself. We found the place he escaped from. It's been sealed off.
What's going on in there? This place isn't sealed. He's in. He's out. Look at all my clothes on.
God's
Hey,
sakes,
what
you
are you
gotta be on
looking
that
at?
IV. Will you come here?
Nothing
Come here.
stops me.
Come here. Will you sit down?
Why is he after me?
Because you're a strong woman. You're independent. Capable of making decisions that sway public opinion. You make a lot of people angry, Deborah.
What did I say? What did I say? What did I do?
It's the Janet Macklin thing. That's why the big push. He doesn't want you to make that second interview.
Why doesn't he go after her?
Because you're telling America that she's right, and you're telling your sick mind that he's wrong.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the Sin Beef Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Gary Hill, and with me tonight is Suzanne.
Greetings.
She sounds so excited to be here. I got to tell you, it's lovely.
I know. I'm so excited.
Also, Jamie is here. How you doing? Jamie's on mute. Maybe. Jamie.
I was my mic. I am doing well. Thank you. I am excited about this show. I am excited about the lineup. I'm excited just to be alive.
Cool. Yeah, Iris is not with us because she's out there saving the world.
That part I'm not excited about.
Well, she's out there working. She's bless our medical professionals. She's out there translating for people and working, and hopefully wearing a hazmat suit right now so she don't get infected by the Ebola virus or whatever going on. I don't want to talk about that fucking disease right now because we got a special guest tonight. Master of the ukulele and the main head honcho at the After Movie Diner. My friend John Cross is here. How you doing, sir?
Yes, I am here. I'm doing excellently well, sir. Excellently well. I know we're not meant to be saying that right now, but I am. I'm doing very well. I'm happy. I'm good. Ukuleles, beards. It's all happening.
Got to stay positive, man. You know, and I didn't give you the intro. John is the master of the intros. If you ever listened to the show before,
because I spend an hour writing them.
he really lays it on thick, man. You know, it's wonderful. Also a musician. I forgot I didn't mention that except for the ukulele part. But John is making us videos every day, us and children at heart, to stay positive through this whole goddamn thing. And yeah.
And and I just released. I don't want to go on pimping everything, but I just released some songs from the vault. I just put out a totally free album on Bandcamp, not charging anything. It's 18 songs that I found on old CDs and old tape cassettes that I put through a mixer and everything, and got back up online. So I just released an album. That's called Oldies, Goodies, and Rusty Fixtures, because my band is called Miscellaneous Plumbing Fixtures. So free album on Bandcamp. Go figure it out. I also made everything on Bandcamp 50% off. So if you want a bunch of music, if you're looking for new music, 50% off. You just use the code STAYHOME50 on Bandcamp, and you get 50% off everything. Just go nuts.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons why me and John are friends. One of them is he made a whole album dedicated to Donald Pleasance, and, you know, there's that, so go get on that.
And I'm working on the sequel. The
Oh, joy.
Pleasancing 2, Electon Boogaloo.
Oh.
Awesome.
My heart's a flutter, man. My heart's a flutter. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do you know what I still have, John? And actually listened to it the other day. You may not even remember this, but I still have my theme song.
Yes. I love that.
Do you remember that?
I do remember it, and I'll tell you why. When I was going through, I have a couple of external hard drives that from my old Apple Mac before I moved in with Kim, and that's where I was going through and finding the old songs that I put up on Bandcamp this week. And one of the things I found was the old Jamie Jenkins theme song from our days doing Mixler on Wednesday nights, doing Crosstalk, and you did your Insomniacs playlist and Drunk on VHS and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, I was reminiscing. I also had I had Matt on the show, direct-to-video connoisseur on the show just this week, because he's come out of the woodwork again. He's redoing the DTV connoisseur website, and he's got his podcast up and running again. And me, him, and Mo were reminiscing about some of the live shows we used to do. And then, of course, he reminded me that not only did you and him do a show for a whole length of time, but that then I hosted his show for a bit. I'd completely forgotten that apparently I hosted his show for a few episodes. But so a lot of that time from about 6 years ago is flooding back now, so it's fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I love those live days. Remember when I first started doing and you were my producer, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just like, fuck it, we'll do it live. And then I'm like surreptitiously sending you, I'm like, find this song. And you did it like on the fly, and you did it seamlessly. It was incredible. I was so in awe of how you did that, because I'm just like, this song next. And you were on it. And,
There was some great nights. There was the one night where I was doing Crosstalk live and my building was on fire. And I didn't even realize. Suddenly black smoke kept coming through my window. There was no alarms going off or anything, and no one told us to get out of the apartment. But I suddenly had to like shut all the windows in the apartment and put the fans on. And yeah, that was crazy. And also, weirdly, I had Rachel Bloom on the show on Crosstalk, which is totally random, who at the time was talking about how Crazy Ex-Girlfriend had not been picked up by Showtime, where it was meant to go to. It then hits the CW and becomes this like enormous fucking water cooler show for like 3 seasons. And I'm like, she was just on my show. So yeah, there was some mad times back then.
Cool. Yeah.
I don't do stuff like that anymore. You know, like I used to.
Well, we're all married now and older and creakier and busier.
That's true.
I'm not. I just get bored easily. That's all that is. You know, this is why I podcast, you know.
Well, no, that was during my, 2 years, my lost weekend, as I think John Lennon called it. That was my 2.5 year lost weekend that I was having, where I was just like, not doing anything. When I'm not podcasting, I'm recording albums, and when I'm not recording albums, I'm getting blind drunk and falling asleep on the subway. So, and having my wallet stolen, using a technique that they've used in New York for apparently 150 years, where someone took a razor blade to my jeans pocket while I slept. They were so delicate. It's true. And they took my wallet out of my jeans pocket while I slept drunkenly on a subway at 4 a.m.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was the worst. And then of course it had everything, when you're like I was at that time, like living beat to beat, it had everything I fucking needed in it. You know what I mean? Like it had a Metro card with money on it. It had my permanent resident ID card in it. Like it just had fucking everything in it. It had my bank card and everything. And it was just one of those things where like people were, PayPaling me money just so I could eat. It was embarrassing. Thankfully, no longer there in that situation.
Yeah, we always kick off the show the same way. Well, this is a different way this time around. I'm asked John, what's he been watching lately?
What have I been watching lately? Obviously I watched the 2 movies we're talking about tonight. I also watched something called Timmy Failure, Mistakes Were Made on Disney Plus, which I really fucking enjoyed. I thought it was great. It's about a kid detective with a mullet in Oregon who has a giant polar bear as an imaginary work colleague, and they believe themselves to be detectives. Only it's kind of like Rushmore for the under 10s, but with a giant polar bear. It's kind of, I kind of fucking loved it. That was great. Kim and I watched that Netflix series that's a bit like a kind of hipster Carrie, whatever it's called. I'm Not Okay With This, which we enjoyed. We thought that was good. Queen and Slim. I watched that thanks to Gary getting on Voodoo. That was fucking awesome. I loved Queen and Slim. I'd missed it in the theater. I'd wanted to see it in the theater, and I'd missed it. So one night, Kim and I sat down and watched it, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. It's kind of...
Our mutual friend Kyle recommended it. I had no desire to see it, and I still haven't watched it, but I really want to, though.
Well, for me, it was this perfect, like, sweet spot, right? Because it's got all the genre shit that you expect from either like the African American cinema, either of the 70s or the 90s, but it also has the genre stuff of like Badlands or Vanishing Point or True Romance or whatever. It has that stuff in it. It has, like, obviously something about the African American experience in there, but it doesn't like hit you over the head with it. It's just like in there, and it's like a cool part of the story. Like they use it to kind of push the genre forward, kind of thing, which genre film always did. Like blaxploitation had all that stuff in it as well, so it felt very in place, which was awesome. It's written and directed by females, and it looks beautiful. Like it just hit all my fucking sweet spots. It was like, wonderful diverse cast and crew, awesome genre stuff in it, badass soundtrack, great cinematography. I fucking loved it. Queen and Slim's already on my list. VFW, of course, big fan of that. Watched that recently with the Sadler.
That was so fantastic.
Oh, so badass. It was awesome. Fucking Fred the Hammer Williamson still kicking butt at his age, which was awesome. William Sadler with a fucking cement saw killing mutant punks. Are you kidding me? Oh, it was awesome. It was brilliant. Loved it.
And Stephen Lang.
Stephen Lang.
Oh, my God. They were all killing it. Fantastic cast.
They were great. What else have I watched lately? I don't want to go on too long about it, but I've seen some good shit lately. No, that's about it. Let's stick with that. Like, that's good. Let's stick with that. That's good.
Okay. Okay.
No, Jamie, you say what you were going to say. I said I'm sticking with that, but you say what you were going to say.
Well, I was going to say, well, then I decided I should wait because it's going to be my turn, and then I can just say it then. So,
yes. Go for it, Jamie. You're next.
Oh, okay. Well, that worked out. And I know that's why it's my turn. But what I was going to say was that I would recommend to you, to everyone, because it's just really great. But there's a movie on Netflix called Platform. And it is a Spanish film that it's really difficult to explain, but it takes place and it's kind of it reminds me of things like Cube and Pi, like stuff like that. But it's so difficult to explain, but everyone should watch it. That's all I got to say about that. It is very heavy with. It's laden with social commentary, but it's not preachy about it. It's just sort of woven in. And it's a really cool scenario about this guy who like wakes up in this, they call it the pit. And like you're on various floors and you stay on one floor for a month and then like you could move up or down. But the thing is that there's one big table of food that moves down the floors every day. And so if you're on the top floor, you get to eat. And then by the time it gets to the bottom, you get what's left, and there's usually nothing left. So, but you're kind of like randomly moving about every month. And that sounds lame, but it's really, really good. It's so good. I don't know how else to convey that, but I highly recommend that. And I particularly think, John, that when you were talking, it just made me think that I think you would like it.
Yeah, I just got a ton of recommendations. I just had my buddy Jason Hewlett on the show from the basement, and he just did like 5 indie movies that are streaming right now that he loves and recommends. And I'm always looking for stuff like that because like I chatted with him, but the biggest thing that podcasts can do right now, certainly movie podcasts, is give people word of mouth recommendations because streaming is just awash with so much stuff, and most of it or a lot of it is kind of crap. So you do need people you trust to pluck those gems out of the mire or whatever. And so I'll definitely check that out. It's on my list now. Platform sounds good.
Wonderful.
Oh my God.
If you
I used
watch
to write for Jason when they had their website.
Yeah, I think that's when
That's when we first met.
Yeah, when we first
started
recommended
talking.
each other was on Facebook through Jason and Sean, I think. And then it all interconnects at a certain point, Suzanne. Like that's what I love about this great community. Like we're all still, Jason's been doing it 10 years, I've been doing it 9 years, Jamie's been doing it what now, 12, 13. How long have you been doing it, Jamie? You've been doing it
12 years.
12 years, right? So it's all like interconnected. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, and I was talking to Mo the other day. I was like, we've got to do something soon. And
it is
Mo
tough.
and I haven't done anything in a long time, but
it's tough getting him on the blower anymore. The only time I ever really get to podcast with him is the New Year show that we do every year, which I still manage to drag him back for every year. But he's all loved up to the max in Florida and working every hour God sends. So yeah.
Oh, goodness. We were so much happier when we were miserable.
we were so much happier when we were all like single and living in like shitty places. Yeah.
Let's see. For other than platform, some things I've watched recently. We're in the A's now for the collection. 2 years we made it to the A's finally, but so we've been watching like fun stuff like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Attack the Block, and then revisited the Austin Powers movies, which I have not watched. We own them, but I haven't watched them in years. And then just tonight, finished it shortly before we started doing this show, we rewatched Autopsy of Jane Doe, which is one of my favorite movies of the last few years. And that's another one that I recommend that if people haven't seen it, then I think they should. Brian Cox turns in a killer performance in that. And also the guy, I cannot think of his name, who plays his son, but it's basically like a two-guy movie. And there's a mysterious dead body, and they're a father and son who are doing the autopsy. And then, things are revealed and things happen, and it's really creepy. Like it's so well done. So that's about it, I guess.
Cool. Suzanne?
Oh, wow. Well, let's see. Decided since we're going to be locked up together, started going back and watching some older movies that I haven't seen in a long time. Don't remember, just plain haven't seen. So we watched Judgment at Nuremberg this week. And I vaguely remember watching it with my grandmother. It's about this guy who's an American who's presiding over these Nazi judges who allowed a lot of the atrocities to happen. And it's just a really, really interesting character study. And Spencer Tracy was just amazing in this movie. It's very long. It's incredibly unsettling at times, but it's well worth the watch. And watched one of my personal favorite snake movies with the NFW crew the other night. The movie that you say, you hiss it, you don't say it, because I sound like an idiot when I say it, so I won't do it. So I got to watch a very young Dirk Benedict, basically turn into a snake. It's fucking awesome. And, today Hubs was recovering, so he got control of the remote, and I'm sorry he did for half of it. But we watched Doolittle with Robert Downey Jr., and it was absolutely fucking terrible. So don't waste your time. Just don't do it. And we watched Pixar's Onward, which was, wow, just leaving it at lots and lots and lots of feels.
Whoa. Yeah, I watched Onward too. And I thought I watched it twice actually. And Yeah, lots of feels. Like Suzanne said, I'm going to review this movie. I'll probably do it with the Sorcerer's Apprentice or something with you guys. And yeah, it doesn't have a lot of. It got bad reviews, and I don't see why.
I think it was a bunch of millennials who didn't get some of the jokes, and they were just little fucking assholes about it.
Because it doesn't make a lot of silly jokes for your 5-year-old to enjoy. It's very if you ever it's all about brotherhood and all about the thrill of the quest. So if you're a D&D fan, you're probably gonna love this film to death. And there's a gelatinous cube joke in this movie. If you're a D&D guy, you know what that is. And there's also gelatinous cubes in EverQuest too. Yes, and Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, the actor, not the director, did a real fine job in the voice acting, as well as Octavia Spencer as the Manticore, which I loved. I love that character so much, and it's just a good time. And I honestly don't see the hate. So watch Onward. It's good stuff. Beyond that, what did I watch? I didn't watch a lot because I've been watching stuff for shows and these quarantine reviews. So I watched Fritz the Cat, which I reviewed with Cameron Scott. That should be out. Really fun. Really a lot more social commentary than I expected. Listen to the review. It's there. It's like 25 minutes long, but way more than I expected of that movie. It's a Ralph Bakshi joint. I've been teasing these Bakshi reviews since forever, so you might run all of them throughout this quarantine. You never can tell. So if you want to be on the show, let me know. And we also watched the delightful anthology movie, surprisingly delightful, Dead Time Stories from 1986. Very funny. Doesn't take itself too seriously, so if you want to turn on something stupid, both of those movies are on Amazon Prime, and I would love for you guys to watch and then listen to our reviews of them, because fucking delightful. Dead Time Stories was.
Those are the two that were like produced or presented by George A. Romero, right?
No, this is one. No. Yeah, this one made in the 80s.
Oh.
Like, yeah, Scream Factory put a Blu-ray out of it that I kind of want now.
Which were the ones I thought George Romero had like presented? I think they just put it on.
Yeah, there was. I watched Volume 1.
Dead Time Stories, yeah.
Volume 1 was. It had a couple of moments, and I barely made it through half of Part 2 because it was so completely nonsensical.
Yeah, this involves a witch's story, trying to resurrect a sister, a werewolf story, which is pretty fucking hilarious. And the best story of the bunch, a Goldilocks and the Three Bears story. I'm not going to give away the details, but it's not in the traditional sense, and it's fucking hilarious. So, it's wonderful. I'm going to leave it at that. Oh, and today, for no reason, I watched 2 hours of the Herculoids because I need that in my life. And, I love cartoons. I celebrate Hanna-Barbera to my very core, so I may watch Thunder the Barbarian tomorrow or something, or Hong Kong Phooey. Whatever's available for my eyes to absorb for cartoons. I don't need serious stuff in my head right now. I just want to watch something simple and pure. And sometimes that's a Triceratops who blows little beads out of his horn and piles of goo that kick ass, and that's the hurt.
I heard was baby. Little beads flying out of a horn and piles of goo. I don't know, but that sounds. Are you sure you didn't stumble onto Pornhub?
No. No, this is a Herculoids. If you don't know what it is, John, you should check it out because it's pretty good. I enjoy it, and it's a little slice of what is that? The 70s, Suzanne? You think?
I think so.
Yeah, I think the 70s. Yeah, Hanna-Barbera was making a lot of shit back in those days, And this is stuff I enjoy. And speaking of stuff we all enjoy, I'm skipping the beef segment this week because I think we all need a little more positivity in our lives. So I'm going to kick it to our guest first. And John, what is good in your life right now? And don't quote Conan unless you really, really want to, okay? It's
what's good in my life? Just that just the time I've got to do some creativity. It kind of all started. I think I would kind of be doing this whether all this was going on or not. I got to release an album I turned 40 in February, and I got to release an album on my birthday, which I was super proud of. And what it was interesting was, having worked on that for like a year and a half and finally putting it out, I kind of thought, oh, that'll be it. I probably won't write any songs again for sort of 6 months, and I'll probably just kind of relax and da-da-da-da-da. But then immediately just kept writing and kept having some inspiration and stuff. So I'm really happy. I'm doing some music right now. I've got an album that I'm sort of building together on SoundCloud of just, as I record a song, I put it up there and just kind of build the album out for free. I'm doing my ukulele videos every day. I put out some old stuff that I found in the vaults. I'm writing new stuff all the time. I'm putting together I don't know if it's going to be an audio or a video documentary, but it's a documentary about sort of the community that we're always talking about, but based around my friend Matt Farley in Massachusetts, who's the guy who is the most prolific songwriter in the world. He's written over 20,000 songs and has been on The Tonight Show and been interviewed by a bunch of stuff. Anyway, a kind of community formed up around him of creatives, and I'm in the process of kind of cobbling together some interviews, and I don't know whether I'm going to kind of film some Skype interviews and then kind of edit together some video segments, or whether I'm just going to do it as a series of podcasts, but I'm kind of working on that as well. So yeah, I'm just super happy about being creative, finding it in me, still enjoying it, still excited about doing it. That's always a plus. And then lastly, I'm just still doing the diner after all these years. And I've decided that during this quarantine thing, I'm going to try and get back all the people we've had as guests in the past to kind of do some top fives. So we've had Jim came on, did top 5 films to be quarantined with. Matt came on from Direct to Video Connoisseur and did his top 5 Albert Pine joints. Sorry, there's a police car or fire engine.
It's all good. All good, sir.
Matt Poyer came on and did his top 5 Albert Pine joints. We just had Jason Hewlett on, who did top 5 indie horrors of the last few years that he likes. And we've got some other top 5s up our sleeve. So, yeah, it's really all just the creative stuff that's making me happy, and all the soppy home stuff, but I won't go into that. But creativity, man, that's what it's all about.
I've been invited, so be prepared to get real bored, people, okay? To the diner show. So I'm throwing invites out, sort of new invites out every week, so I'll get around to everyone eventually. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Jamie, what is good in life for you, okay?
You know what I'm enjoying? I am enjoying seeing all of my artist friends find creative ways to do something virtual with what they're doing. Like Nathan Milliner today was doing a live drawing of Indiana Jones, and it was just cool. I mean, you just had the camera just on his drawing, and so you could just sit and watch him do the sketch, which was just a fun thing. People are finding all sorts of ways to do things. John Borowski did a virtual book signing for his books that were out. So basically, like, he was doing a live stream, and then like you could purchase the book, and then he would sign it for you, but then mail it to you. I love that people, rather than allowing this to completely wreck them and get them down, they're finding really creative ways to still share what they're doing and get their stuff out there. And I just think it's fun. Like, every time I'm, scrolling through my feed, I think it's fun to see those kind of reactions, for those kind of things that people are doing, or just silly videos that people are making, or whatever, just something to kill the time. Now, it blows my mind that it's been like a week and people are already like bored out of their gourd. I'm like, I don't get it, but I love the fact that it's coming out in creative ways, So, I mean, I've been saying from the beginning that my generation, the Xers, we were born for this. Like, we no one knows how to spend time alone, like us latchkey kids. So, we did it for years, but I love seeing how people are the positive ways in which people are spinning what's going on. And that makes me happy, makes me smile. Plus people are still finding ways to make some money,
Yeah, and Kim and I were walking through the park because we live near Prospect Park, and about a week and a bit ago, we kind of thought, we'll go for a walk. We'll keep our distance, and we'll just kind of go out and we'll hang out in the park for a bit. And it was only about 3 or 4 days in at that point, and a woman walked past us on the phone, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm like just so bored. Like, I don't know what I'm meant to do. Like, I'm just sat at home. I'm so bored." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" With everything that there is in the world digitally to either look at or listen to or, whatever, and you're just walking around a park with your headset on, shouting at somebody on the other end of the phone about how bored you are. I'm like, oh my God, I hope you get it. No, I'm joking.
That's what kills me is that now I'm still working. I have, but I do have fewer hours. I'm only working about 30 hours. And so I have an extra day off. So I have 3 days off a week. And I am loving that because it's actually giving me time to do some of the things that I've always wanted to do, but I never had the time to do. And whether that's even just watch more movies with Brian, whatever, I don't care. I will never get bored. I'd be like Burgess Meredith at the end of Twilight Zone. Finally I have enough time. But I never got to get new glasses, so I'd be screwed, just like Burgess Meredith at the end of Twilight Zone.
Suzanne, what is good in life for you?
Well, I'm kind of looking forward to, because it just seems like Pat and I get so busy every weekend. We're invited to this, got to do that. And for once, we have nothing to do on the weekends. And I'm kind of looking forward to this, staying home, making dinner together, and just spending time together with the dog, the cats, and catching up on a lot of movies that we just don't get to watch together. So it's just nice. We've got a dinner planned out for tomorrow night, which is going to be fun and just no pressure from anybody. Why aren't you here? Are you coming? You said you were coming. When are you coming? So it's just, I think right now it's nice to just have the quiet time. And I think I desperately need that.
It's like what Larry David says, that there's nothing better than a canceled plan. And the whole world has canceled its plans. And we're all kind of like, oh, thank God.
Oh, yeah. And what you guys said about being Gen Xers. Yeah, latchkey kids. I came home. I had chores. I did my homework. I didn't need, and this was before anything digital. You had this big console television and an Atari, if you were lucky.
Right?
Yeah, well, me and my sister used to bake muffins or whatever, and then watch cartoons and then do our homework and stuff. It was just, I don't know, we just got on with it. My parents were, the constant refrain of my parents when I was growing up was John, you don't understand, we both have to work and we have to work late and we have to do this, so we're not going to be around. That was kind of the story. So it's yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents weren't around to entertain me. I entertained myself.
Also, I didn't want them to be.
No, I didn't. That's the thing is I was so much happier when they weren't there.
They didn't get my music. They didn't get my sense of humor. They didn't get my comments or my references. I couldn't talk to them about movies. I put a film on. My dad would fall asleep in 15 minutes. Unless it had a cowboy on a black horse and a cowboy on a white horse. The guy on the white horse defeated the guy on the black horse. He didn't understand the movie. You know what I mean? It had to be good versus evil in a hat. Then he would understand it. Outside of that, he wasn't interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like my dad with Westerns and war movies. Oh my God, I swear to God, I cringe every time I see Back to Bataan on with John Wayne. My father, I swear to God, he bought the VHS of this back in the day when VHSs were like 50, $60 a piece. And he bought the fucking VHS of this and watched it and watched it. I swear to fucking God, he watched it every week. And I had nowhere else to go.
The only thing Dad and I was ever able to bond on movie-wise was Westworld, which obviously plays on the whole like Man in Black killer cowboy thing. But he didn't understand why they were all robots. He liked the movie because there was like a bad guy, Yul Brynner, like killing people and stuff. But he didn't understand the whole robot thing. He didn't get none of that made any sense to him. But he liked Yul Brynner and the cowboy hat. So
war movies and westerns is what I was raised on because of my dad. And it's every time, even after I, grew up and moved out and got a place of my own, every time I would come visit him, there was a John Wayne movie on. For 20 years when I would go visit him, there was a John Wayne movie on TV. But that was great because I loved John Wayne. I had such a crush on him when I was 7. I had a John Wayne clock on my wall.
Oh my God, cute little 7-year-old Jamie having a crush on John Wayne. That's hilarious. That's fucking hilarious.
Oh, jeez.
Did you have pigtails and wear a gingham skirt and want to be swept off your feet by John Wayne?
Were you there?
No. No.
Because, yeah.
I'm just assuming that's what you do.
In my dreams, I'm Maureen O'Hara.
Yeah.
Well, I do love that movie.
Oh my gosh, what am I grateful for? I don't even know, man. There's lots of stuff. I mentioned cartoons. Cartoons are essential in your life and in your soul to love cartoons. I'm grateful there's a waffle maker that makes Lego pieces that's going to be coming soon. I'm going to buy one of those for sure because I want to play with my food. I'm going to play with my food, damn it. Play with my food. What else?
Maybe a little fry house.
There's a waffle maker that makes Lego pieces. You're going to have to explain to me, dude.
They have a waffle maker that you could buy that would turn your waffle into Lego pieces you could build stuff with. So you could play with your food literally,
Wow. Okay. Cool.
What else? Peanut butter M&Ms. Those are
Sorry.
Peanut butter M&Ms are delicious. Those are a thing. Trash cinema, which we mentioned already. That trashes some, treasures others. Love that to death, unless it's something really bad. I heard some of these, listen to the horror cast, and they mentioned a film called Pigster is really terrible, so I avoid that like the plague. But it's a great time to be alive. There's lots of content out, like John mentioned. I've been trying to get more content out. I released 2 shows as they were talking about the movies they watched, so you're welcome, I guess. Listen to that Grease 2 commentary. It's gold, okay? That's all I'm going to say about that one.
As long as you claim quite rightly that Grease 2 is better than Grease 1, then I'm fine with it.
Usually when it's a movie that 3 of us like and the other 2 are rejecting, not in a bad way, but when they groan through the whole thing and they like it but they don't like it, it makes for good conversation. we did a Pink Flamingos one once, and Nudie was just disgusted. So it made good conversation,
Yeah.
Oh God,
I'm definitely in the Grease 2 camp, and
Yes,
not even
I am
ironically,
too.
not even ironically, just squarely in the Grease 2 camp. It made me believe that Michelle Pfeiffer might fall in love with a stuffy Brit. So
get it, get it, Stephanie, get it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, lots of stuff, man. I've been just trying to stay positive throughout this whole thing. Thinking about sickness, but avoiding people. But then again, I'm a fucking introvert, so I avoid people often anyway. So I'm just grateful I live in a neighborhood where it's very ethnically sound, so there's not too many crazy people running around my neighborhood talking about the end of the world or something. Nobody's wearing a sandwich board telling me to bring out my dead. Nothing like that. Yeah, I'm just waiting, just watching the internet, watching the wheels go by, as the song says, and just idiots saying new things and new predictions. And again, I'm talking negative again. It's just something I enjoy just watching dumb people talk shit. It's just something I enjoy, so, let it burn, people. No, I'm playing. I'm here, staying positive. We got a show to do tonight, which is, 2 films that involve murder in a hospital, which is going to be fun. We got the Cannon Joint, X-Ray, aka Hospital Massacre, and we have Visiting Hours, starring the fantabulous Michael Ironside in his many, many outfits in this movie. We'll get into all that as we talk about the film. And
I have to point out that when Gary sent me the list of his 2-movie matchup things, I totally did not put, when I saw Visiting Hours and X-Ray and picked those 2 to do, I totally did not think about the current. I was just like, oh my God, I've been meaning to see X-Ray because it's mentioned in the Cannon doc, Electric Boogaloo, the Hartley doc about Cannon. And I had that and Schizoid on my, or Schizoid, however you pronounce it, on my list of movies to watch. So when Gary said X-Ray is on Amazon and da-da-da-da, I'm like, we're doing that. But I didn't even think about the whole, like, hospital thing. It just ended up being very apt to be talking about these 2 movies, I guess.
Cool. We're going to get into X-Ray right after the trailer.
The whole thing was kind of a challenge because it's all in the same place and you still want it to be, you feel like you want things will happen and to. So many times I would try to do something from nothing, Or I can tell you there was one scene in the office of the doctor and all of a sudden she's being asked to wait there, and the doctor leaves, and she's looking around, and I've decided, I said, why not? And we put on the wall pictures of horrible diseases, and she's just looking around it, and so it was stuff like that I was trying to do in order to, to add some scary or unpleasant kind of atmosphere, or for example, when we did the scene, I can't remember when the nurse, or when she's hiding behind some curtain, Barbie Benton, and all of a sudden the crazy guy is coming close to her, but she's losing the lighter. She had a lighter. So it's nothing of a sin, but I kind of milked it, into something. I was trying to.
X-Ray, aka Hospital Massacre from 1981. Your cheaper plot synopsis is this. While receiving a routine checkup, a woman finds herself stranded on the hospital's 8th floor while someone dressed as a doctor is intent on her never leaving, even if it means killing any staff member who comes into contact with her. This, of course, stars the very lovely Barbie Benton and the very nude Barbie Benton in this movie. And it is directed by Bose Davidson, who is a Cannon staple and just does tons of action shit now. Just look it up. He's worked with Scott Adkins and all kinds of other people. So just he's still working today. It's good stuff. Let's just throw ourselves right into this one, and I'm gonna kick it to Jamie first and ask her, what'd you think of X-Ray?
Oh man, I have a lot of fun with X-Ray, and the funny thing is we have an ABC's episode, the episode X, that is coming out as soon as Jason posts it. He already has it, and X-Ray is one of the films we're talking about. Totally by coincidence, because we actually recorded that episode back in December. I'm just now getting it out. But I really have a good time with that film. It's weird. It's so bizarre because through the majority of the film, I'm going, why the fuck are you staying at this crazy ass hospital? Get out. Run. You would not be able to stop me from getting out of this hospital with those crazy nurses and those old biddies and the dude on the elevator with the hamburger. Like, what is going on with this guy? Like, he just keeps popping up everywhere. Happy Valentine's Day.
Is it like
funny,
a hospital or an insane asylum? Because they seem to just assume that everyone in a hospital is nuts. And that isn't the case.
No, that's exactly right. And that's what, like, why are they treating it like it's an insane asylum? You know, like with the whole strapping her down and everything. Like, no, this is just a hospital. Like, what is going on? But one thing about it that I always forget is that it is a Valentine film, and I never think about that when Valentine's Day rolls around. And then I'll watch the movie randomly. I'm like, oh, duh, that's a Valentine's Day movie. Now, it's kind of on the peripheral. It doesn't. I mean, it actually does play a big part in the overall plot, but it doesn't feel very Valentine-y, I guess. The only way you remember it is because the one guy keeps saying it. But Barbie Benton, I just think is adorable. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. Now, I will say that the scene where she's getting the examination and the camera is lingering, and it's on the creepy side. Like, it actually is, feels kind of dirty, I don't know, like an uneasy kind of way, but.
It's also unfortunate that Boaz Davidson had admitted years later that was the busiest day on set, was when they filmed that. So instead of emptying the set like you would do nowadays, it was apparently horribly crowded with leery, creepy assholes, I would imagine.
That is horrible. Well, I mean,
sorry to spoil that for you.
No. Because what I was going to say is I've actually heard that she was pretty uncomfortable with the filming of that scene. And even though, which everyone was like, she was a playmate, whatever. But that doesn't mean that you want, 57 guys staring at you while you're, there's a difference between doing something like, and knowing that people will eventually see it, and then doing that thing and having them look at you while you're doing it. Like it's a very different thing.
Yeah, and I think it's also made sort of equally problematic because of the way that the doctor has been treating her since his colleague brought her into his room and was like, could you take care of her because the other doctor is missing? Like, he's been treating her so badly and shittily from the get-go that the whole undressing her and doing what he ends up doing is just it's not just creepy, it just feels very it's not a positive scene, it's a negative scene, whereas what it should be is a little bit titillating, a little bit tantalizing, and then get on with it, you know what I mean? But what it actually is sort of all tied up with this kind of negativity. And it's and you're right, though. That's the thing is that she is a really beautiful woman, and like you shouldn't that shouldn't be a negative thing to see her. Like, it's like, because hell, I like looking at her. She's beautiful. So like this should not come with like a negative feeling, but then it just feels greasy and grimy, and I don't know, kind of gross. But that aside, I still have fun with the movie. I don't think it's great. There are a lot of issues with it. Her fiance, or he's like, he's going to come to the hospital. She's, he knows that something's wrong. He allows them to drag her away. And then he just, I'll just wait out here for 2 hours. Dude, come get me. What are you doing? Like, or don't even come get me. Don't let them take me. Why would you let them drag me away? It's like some of the decisions that are made in this film are just ridiculous. But to say nothing of the people who are perfectly willing to walk around the closed down and fumigated 9th floor as if there's anything to see there. They're like, I think I'll just go into 3 more rooms just in case. It's just nuts. Sorry, Jamie, I keep interrupting. But
No, I love it. It's just like, it's like having a conversation. It's been so long. what was I gonna say? Oh, but one bright spot I think is the killer just cracks me up. Like I don't know. It's because he reminds me of the killer from The Last Slumber Party. And if anybody has not seen that one, it is a terrible movie, and I recommend it highly. And you can find it on YouTube, I'm pretty sure. But it's just the whole doctor get up, and I don't know, it just makes me giggle every time. And his heavy breathing, like he's trying to suck the mask down his throat. He's like,
the heavy breathing really reminded me of Student Bodies.
Yes, I'd like to kill the kid with the gum. But it has its issues. It's almost like it was trying to be a little Argento at times. I love the score, by the way. I ended up actually using the score on the X episode under all the movies. And that's because the other two movies that I have, you can't really find the soundtrack for them because they're very old. But and usually I will then go another creative route and try to think of ways that I can find something that's kind of linked to whatever I'm trying to score under. But I love this score so much that I just used it under all the films on this episode. So I love the music. It's a weird one. It's weird. Like it's not one that gets talked about a lot. It rarely gets talked about. And there's not a whole lot really to it. I can understand why it doesn't get talked about all that much, because it doesn't really stand out as far as being just an excellent film. But I have a lot of fun with it, regardless of that, just because some of these, the majority of these decisions are so silly. They're just silliness. And why is one of the old ladies a man in drag?
No idea.
I don't understand that.
What I felt is that in essence this movie, which I again also had a lot of fun with. In essence, this movie is someone from Canon watched a bunch of other slasher films that were coming out at the time, and went, "This is what we need." Started a checklist. Was like, we need a flashback sequence at the beginning. Why? Well, My Bloody Valentine and Pieces had one, so we might as well put one. Okay, fine. Let's just steal My Bloody Valentine. All right, let's just do that. And then it was like, all right, so then we're going to have a hospital slasher. Why? Because, well, it's hospitals and Halloween 2 and whatever. Let's just go ahead and do it. And so the hospital slasher, and then they start going down. Well, we need nudity. Well, we need some gore. Well, we need whatever. But there's no concept of really why you need any of these things, or how you need any of things, or what the point of any of these things are. Then I feel like someone came in, and I've got to imagine it was Boaz, because if anyone's watched Lemon Popsicle, you know that man has a slightly odd fucking sensibility. He's not entirely all there, as they say on the page. So he threw in, like you say, like drag queen old ladies and like mad drunks in the elevator and stuff like that. Because again, and I think the reason why I bring up Lemon Popsicle is because if you've watched Lemon Popsicle, like it has a lot of those things in it that this film has in it, where you're just like, is that good or is that creepy and wrong? Is that funny or is that just fucking weird? And that's just like the sensibility that pervades through Boaz's stuff, like his early work. But outside of that, this is a checklist slasher film. It's a slasher film that comes kind of halfway through the boom. But the best thing about it is that while they don't have much understanding of like setting up a character or framing a plot, which surprisingly a lot of slashers spend a lot of time doing. I think it's a genre that gets maligned a lot, but like actually the first 40 minutes of most slashers is establishing the premise, establishing the characters, establishing like why someone would be after them or how someone is after them. which this movie just totally does away with. We don't know who she really is. We know that she has an ex-husband and that she's seeing a new guy, and she knows that the ex-husband has her kid, but we don't really understand the relationship of any of those things that are happening. She then goes for a checkup. We don't know why she's going for a checkup or what for or how. And then, as the plot synopsis says, everyone who's about to come in contact with her is killed, and seems to be killed in order to keep her at the hospital under the guise that she has a much worse illness than she actually has. And so therefore there's all this stuff faked, and the blood test is trying to be switched because he kills the person doing the blood test, and there's x-rays that are switched and everything like that. But like, to what end? Like, there is no trying to convince her she has a worse illness than she has is really only those so that she stays in the hospital. But only the murderer is meant to be doing that. Yet everyone in the hospital plays ball with it. Like, everyone in the hospital, and they don't act like doctors. They act like assholes. They're like, well, you're not leaving. And she's like, well, I am leaving. And they're like, no, you're not. You've got to go in there. And like, at no point does anyone say to her, we think you have this really bad thing, and like, there are tests we can run. Like, it's all just, everyone just treats her like an asshole throughout the whole movie. And again, I feel like that's kind of a Davidson thing a little bit from his early films. However, the thing that they do right is they go, well, once she's in the hospital, what we need to do is we need to make it as atmospheric as all get out. We have to make sure that like blood is spilled all over the place. We have to make sure that plenty of people are being killed, screaming, that crazy people are there, that there are plenty of red herrings. Like that solid like 40 minutes in the middle of the movie, like the 45 minutes in the middle of the movie, when the killing's happening, or when the stalking's happening, or when the screaming's happening, it's a ton of fun. It's filmed very well, and there's like good mood and atmosphere and lighting. Outside of that, it doesn't know what the fuck it is or why it's doing what it's doing, but it will give people who love mad slashers and gore and random silliness a good time. That's how I felt.
Cool. I'll kick it to Suzanne. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's not a terrible movie. It's kind of an interesting little slasher. There's the plot not very thin. I agree. That was one thing that you both brought up that I would have brought up as well, is the logic decisions. That this would never happen. And the one thing I remember, when she was like, I'm getting out of here, when her boyfriend came, and they finally get her kind of restrained, and they're like, she's got DTs. I'm like, what? Where the fuck did that come from? So yeah, the nurses act like just brutes. The doctors are just rapey, and that you can tell she was completely uncomfortable, and that examination scene just kept going on and on and on, and you could tell. I mean, I'm gonna guess she's not like the world's greatest actress, but you definitely got that feeling of extreme discomfort. And that's one of the things I kind of like about this movie, is it never really, you don't quite feel settled when you're watching it. That box with her boyfriend's head it shows up, and then she runs down the hall and it mysteriously vanishes, and there's a cake. And it's just I like it, but it just seems like a bunch of random scenes kind of strung together, but that was kind of the canon way. And you definitely get the shades of My Bloody Valentine, just in I guess with the lighting aspect of the whole movie. It was definitely a lot of My Bloody Valentine and the competition with Halloween too. And it was so funny from the very beginning. It's like, oh wow, it what I did like is it kicked off fast. Little Susan's playing, and then her little playmate's dead. Okay, now we're off and running. And
hung on a fucking coat rack, by the way. You know, it's amazing.
I know.
Plus, I think 2 of those kids were the kids from Bloody Birthday.
Yeah, one of your
I
favorites.
thought they looked familiar.
Yeah, definitely the girl, and I want to say the Jacoby kid was too, or Jacoby. But I do love Bloody Birthday.
I've always loved that movie.
I recognized the little girl, and I was like, "Where have I seen this girl from before?" It's not Bloody Birthday. It's the dinner scene of Blues Brothers. You know, how much for the little girl? She was at the table. Yeah.
Oh wow!
I mean, I love Bloody Birthday as well, but that's where I recognized her from. How much
she has
for your
that,
wife?
she has that scene where she has like that blank stare. You know.
Yeah, no, she was definitely a psycho killer for real. Like, definitely for realsies.
But all in all, it's not a terrible little slasher entry. I like the long, brooding hallways that always looked like they were covered in fog. And there was just like this complete sense of peril going on throughout the whole movie with her. I mean, there were a lot of scenes that were incredibly uncomfortable. And it's like the one thing that bugged me a little bit most of the deaths were cutaways. You saw most of the action and they cut away right at the end. So you did get your blood splat. You did get to see a body, but they pulled away completely, which is probably a good idea because the effects may have looked pretty bad at the time. Who knows? And still, it's a decent little entry into, stuck in a hospital with a bunch of people that should not be there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge slasher fan, so and I have a slasher coffee table book, and at least once a year, Kim and I kind of go through it and pull out like 4 or 5 movies to watch. This is one, as I said, I've been wanting to see for ages, and had I put this on like a slasher day to watch amongst a bunch of other slashers, I would not have been disappointed at all. And I wasn't disappointed this time around. It's not a disappointing slasher at all. It's kind of mad. The whole 9th floor covered in mist thing that blows my mind is that she stops on the 9th floor, and 3 guys with gas masks say the 9th floor is being fumigated, right? So this is not set up by the killer. This is not something that is set up by the killer. This is an actual thing. They're actually having the 9th floor fumigated, right? Mm-hmm. Yet every single character in this film, including a medical professional, a doctor, steps out onto the 9th floor with it heavily being fumigated to the point where the people doing the fumigation had to wear gas masks. She walks around. She doesn't even cough. She doesn't rub her eyes. She doesn't break out a sweat. Nothing like that. In fact, she goes, "Oh, it's perfectly normal that I'm stepping out on a dark, clearly fumigated 9th floor to go meet somebody that I've been told to go meet." So normal that she wanders through 3 or 4 rooms before getting killed. Because for a moment I was like, wait. I couldn't remember. Was the 9th floor being fumigated as like a ruse for the killer to get people up there? But no, it was actually being fumigated like that. It's not like the 3 people who stopped her at the elevator revealed themselves to be part of the plot. Like, it was actually being fumigated. So people walked through that floor inhaling toxins. Like, he could have just left them on the 9th floor to die. Like, that was sort of weird.
Yeah, I will say one thing it does. Oh, sorry.
No, once again, it just seems like it was just a series of different ideas that they kind of fused together through the plot of a hospital.
It meows.
Yeah, it's Fester's birthday.
It is. Happy birthday, Fester. 14, yeah.
One thing I think they did really well is exploit the fear of being trapped in a situation that you can't get out of. Like, one of my biggest fears is being arrested for something that I didn't do and not being able to get out, or being trapped in an asylum and not being able to get out not being able to convince people that I don't belong there, because it never fails in movies where you are trying to convince people that you don't belong there. It just convinces them more that you do. And she runs into that, because she's like, get away, there's he's dead, asshole, get off. And they're like strapping her down, and the more she protests and the more she tries to tell them that there is a murderer about, the crazier they think she is. And
your hospital is
a
already filled with crazy people. And when it's not a hospital, when no one in the hospital is recuperating from an illness or actually being treated for an illness, but they're all just insane people wandering around in robes and dressing gowns and stuff and drag, apparently, like you're only going to end up looking even crazier if you're going to claim that someone's trying to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
You may
walk
as well
into
say
a normal
that you're a fire
hospital.
truck.
Right, exactly. You walk into a normal hospital and say someone's trying to kill me. First of all the lights are on. Secondly, all the nurses are around. Thirdly, there's someone to talk to. There's a front desk. There's a waiting room. Like, stuff's happening, you know what I mean? Like in a regular hospital. But not in this one. In this one, there's a mad dude who may or may not be a killer and or dead in a dressing gown in the elevator, eating a hamburger with so much ketchup on it.
That's the grease two. That's a grease 2 level of ketchup on that burger there, Suzanne. That's what I'm gonna say.
Oh yeah, it is.
And he's drunk. Like what do they do? Are they just housing like drunkards and homeless and crazies? Like, is that what this hospital is? And in which case, why didn't she just go to a general practitioner and not some mad doctor in a hospital? Anyway, I'm going to let other people talk.
That's an excellent point, though.
Oh my god. Yeah, if there's 4 MVPs of this movie, it's that Afghan pillow, because I love that to death, man. I want that in my life. The old ladies who hate her guts throughout the entire movie. The fact that this whole plot is predicated on false x-rays that have been switched out. She claims nothing wrong with her, but in the fact that the killer does his killings, it just makes her look crazy at every turn. I think that's, like, I wish he had a slide whistle to make that even more effective for me, Like at least we're, whoop, I would love it,
Also, Gary, the x-rays, man, like, one of them just looks like a regular x-ray with, like, nothing wrong on it at all. The other one looks like her entire body is made up of, like, I don't know, Sour Patch worms or something. Like, the x-ray...
It looks like those plastic lays that you get from Party City have been shoved down her body cavity.
Yeah. Like, they hold it up and go, oh, my goodness, like, all her organs are falling apart. And I'm like, I'm not sure that an x-ray would look like that if all your organs were falling apart. And also, if all your organs were falling apart, I don't know that you would be, like, walking around and talking and making... anyway.
With all of that in her abdomen, when he did the examination, you think being a doctor, he'd was like, no, that x-ray is not right.
But then you don't have
you
don't have a movie then, see?
As he was doing the examination, I wanted, like, squelching sounds like blancmange, because if her entire innards looked like that x-ray, then you would just prod her and it'd just be like, like putting your hand in pudding. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
No, but I think that the real winner of this movie is the simplicity of it. I mean, you get the opener with, her hanging out with I guess her male friend playing with a train, and then her secret admirer giving her the Valentine, and then just like shutting it off, and just to say, fuck this lame guy. And her friend, you get this in the first few minutes of the film, being hung and killed on a fucking coat rack, which is something you gotta love in a movie like this. This is your killer. You're just waiting for him to reveal himself the entire time. And
right, but also, like, the kid kills another kid, right? As a kid, right? And, like, that's it. Like, there's not even at least Bloody Valentine's, like, oh, he went off to a mental asylum or whatever, or like Halloween, oh, he went off to a mental asylum. Like, Nothing. And then as an adult, she doesn't even mention it. Like, it doesn't even come up. Like, she's not even worried about her kid, even though as a kid, her friend was killed by some mad person. Like, she's just, like, gives her kid to the husband, just like, whatever. When she speaks to the kid later and the kid's like, the husband's out, she's like, all right, when's he going to be back? Like, none of whatever happens in the opening scene plays into the rest of the movie at all until, like, the ending sequence, where you're just like, what? And then they have to have a flashback to remind you.
Oh, yeah. It's like, by the way, Harold's fucked up, man. You know.
Yeah, right.
Should have
like, well,
been. I'm sorry.
I know what's going to happen because I've seen Bloody Valentine.
Yes. It's like, this should have been addressed, though, by your family. Harold should never became, like, a medical doctor, if that's true. But, yeah, that's the thing of this movie. But the kills are really, you know, like they said, you don't show a whole lot. I do like the hatchet to the head. You do get to see that. And,
the hatchet to the head's great. No, but wait, that's another point you just brought up. Like, is Harold an actual medical doctor? Or is he a serial killer who's waited this long to pretend to be a doctor and has gone through some elaborate, like, Kramer out of Seinfeld ruse, pretending to be a doctor to the point where all the other doctors believe he's a doctor, but actually he's a psycho killer? And if he's actually a real medical doctor, like, did he have to go through the 7 years of school and training and everything in order to do that?
This elaborate.
They call that the long con, John. Come on.
I was just about to say that is the longest long con ever.
Harold, who had no compulsion about breaking into a house and killing a child when he was a child, instead of just doing that when she's an adult and breaking into a house and killing her when she sleeps, no, he's going to go to medical school, people. He's going to get...
He became a doctor, ironically. You know.
Yeah, the real tragedy is he wanted to be a baker. And he didn't get to do that because he had to set up this whole revenge plot.
And look, I get it. Like, horror movies don't have to make a lick of sense. I get it. Like, as long as there's blood spattering around and nudity and people running down corridors screaming, like, most of us are happy. But I just mean, like, there are so many holes and bad decisions in this film that they just compound against each other to the point where you can't really take any of it seriously.
No, you can't, because it's just a series of events that makes her look crazy. And, you know, it happens to be this killer. I like the look of the killer, by the way. I mean, I love, like, the thick rubber gloves. It is almost like a giallo kind of thing with these thick rubber gloves and the mask covering his entire face. Because, of course, you can't know who he is till the very, very end of the movie, because it has to be revealed that it's probably this guy who's a man now, who she's probably never seen since he was a child. So why the fuck would she know what he looks like? You know, I don't know, but I seen his eyes. They were terrible. You know, but it's yeah, you gotta come to that conclusion to where you find out that he's the killer. Because why would it be anybody else with that opener? Why would it be? I mean, for anything, it's predictable, but at the same time, the simplicity is king in this movie.
But you could
well, because by the time you get to the end, you've forgotten about the beginning, so.
Right, but it could have been, like, it was perfectly set up that it was the new boyfriend or the stepdad or whatever. It could have easily been him. In other words, it makes a lot more sense than going away to medical school to become a doctor, to then bring her to a hospital, to then kill her real doctor, to then, like, that whole thing, like, just such a headache. Simply, you know, change your name, move out of town, or you've gone to a psycho ward or whatever you've done. Change your name, change your hair, come back, meet her, like, woo her or whatever. Become the stepdad, and then go on a kill rampage. That makes slightly more sense.
You just described the plot of Valentine.
Right. Well, yeah, I know.
I
mean, not My Bloody Valentine, but Valentine.
No. I know Valentine.
Well, I mean, there's a different way it could have gone. Well, maybe he, you know, felt so much remorse, he decided to become a doctor to save people, to try to make up for the mistake he made when he was young. But he was flipping through, saw that she had been a patient, and everything came crashing back, and he felt the desperate need to kill her.
Oh,
Right. And had they established that, that would have been awesome. I would have been all over that. That would
this movie needs a Lifetime plot through. I'll tell you how you do it, okay? Our killer Harold, when he turns like 17 years old, he gets out of the asylum. He gets facial reconstructive surgery, and then she doesn't know who he is, so he decides to go woo her. They get married. They have a couple of kids. They have awkward sex until finally she has to go to this doctor's appointment. You know,
they have all sex.
They said, by the way, we had sex 2 times this morning. I've been the killer the whole time. And then the look of grimace on her face would be amazing. And, you know, Eric Roberts could be the killer. I'm just throwing it out there. Do it. You know.
Starring Eric Roberts.
Starring Eric Roberts.
As Harold.
Oh, my gosh. But I'll kick it to you, John. Anything else you'd like to say about the movie? What would you give it 1 to 10?
I would give it I am a slasher fan, right? I have watched both the nadir of the genre and the best of the genre. I would give this a square 7 out of 10 as a slasher film. It ticks all the boxes. It's a ton of fun to watch, a ton of fun to talk about. It's a good 90 minutes. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I give it a good, strong 7.5 out of 10.
And Naya agrees with you.
Yeah, sorry, Jamie.
I was actually going to say the same thing. I would go 7.5.
Cool. Suzanne?
Yeah, I like the 7. It hits all the sweet spots. It's a hell of a lot of fun, and it never wastes your time. Yeah, 7.
Yeah, it's there. It's better than the middle of the road. I had to go agree with my co-host and give it a 7 as well. Like I said, add certain plot points. This movie could be a fucking 10 or 11, perhaps even. You know, gotta lifetime this shit up, y'all. It's I need that kind of melodrama in my life.
Yeah, had it had a second rewrite, possibly by someone with a slightly more Americanized sense of humor rather than Burroughs Davidson, which he has a slightly odder sense of humor. And had it had just an explanation rather than just Harold showing up at the beginning and Harold showing up at the end, had it had, just like you say, lifetime that shit up, just put a line of exposition somewhere in the movie that just kind of goes, oh yeah, and then I did this or whatever, and then we're all sweet, and then that bumps it up to maybe a 9 or a 10.
Yeah, I have to admit, I did have a moment where it was just we had the beginning, all the stuff in the middle. It's like, well, we knew it was going to be Harold, we just didn't know who Harold was, and then that just like that like flippant reveal at the end. Don't you remember me? Like, yeah, I was hoping there for something. Just a little something.
See, missing plot points like that is what makes Blood Rage so fucking brilliant, okay? Is all I'm going to say about that, you know?
I'm so glad Blood Rage was, like, rediscovered, and people are loving it. But no, the thing with also is that Harold shows up, obviously, earlier in the film as, like, the kindly doctor who's trying to help her out. And it's never quite established where she knows him from. That's the other thing. Is like, I get it if she goes to this hospital all the time and she goes to a regular doctor and whatever, but like there was no attempt to even explain that. Just suddenly Howard shows up and he's just being slightly nicer to her than all the outrageous assholes that have been real mean to her ever since she showed up. But like, we don't really get why that is. Like, it would be, if he is a doctor and if he has been making this history with her, kind of like put in a line of dialogue to explain that, I guess.
Man, oh man. Yeah, this was a fun discussion. Next up, we're going to talk about Leather Daddy, abusive, but fucking scowly ass, and you got to love him for that. Michael Ironside, just terrorizing people in Visiting Hours from 1982. We're going to talk about that right from the trailer.
In this hospital, your next visit may be your last.
All visitors, please leave the hospital. Dr. Len.
Visiting Hours, so frightening you may never recover. Starring Lee Grant, William Shatner, Linda Pearl. When was the last time you sat in a movie theater and felt the cold fingers of fear creeping up your back? 20th Century Fox presents a movie so intense, so frightening, you may never recover. Visiting Hours, starring Lee Grant, William Shatner, Linda Pearl. Rated R. Once, every few years, a movie comes along that is so chilling, so terrifying, it sets a new level of fright. It will reach you in ways you cannot predict, because it is so intense, so frightening, you may never recover. Visiting Hours, starring Lee Grant, William Shatner, Linda Pearl. Rated R. In this hospital, your next visit may be your last.
All visitors, please leave the hospital. Don't do that.
Visiting Hours, so frightening, you may never recover. Rated R.
Visiting Hours from 1982. Your cheaper plot synopsis is this: a deranged, misogynistic killer assaults a journalist. When he discovers she has survived the attack, he follows her to the hospital to finish her off. And a whole lot more. This stars, of course, the great Michael Ironside, Lee Grant, William Shatner, and a whole lot more. And, yeah, this is a film, and I'm going to kick it to... This is a great film, actually. Kick it to John first. I know he had an interview with Michael Ironside, so that's the thing, too, guys. Check that out.
I did interview Michael Ironside. I don't know how much about Visiting Hours we talked about, but he was driving from Tennessee back to Baltimore and just had me on his speakerphone and just kept talking for like 2 hours, and then was like,
oh, wow.
my daughter's been trying to call me for 45 minutes. I better get off the line. That was how he ended the interview. I was like, yeah, you probably should have got off the line like 40 minutes ago. But it was the best interview. It was fantastic. Anyway, Visiting Hours. I've seen this one before. I actually really like this one. I'm a big fan of like both Canadian filmmaking and Canadian horror. The one thing I would say, though, is it must be so fucking frustrating being in Canada, especially around this era, is they have to pretend it's America, even though like it makes no bearing on anything that's happening. Like, just say it's Canada. Like, we'll understand. That's the only thing about this movie, is that like they have to. It must have just sucked being Canadian, being like, this is a Canadian film with a Canadian cast shot in Canada, and yet they have to like pretend it's America. Why? Well, more people watch movies in America. Do they? Okay, fine. But as it is, Visiting Hours is. I almost hasten to call it a slasher because there's sort of more going on in it than that. Lee Grant's journalist, there's a nice, neat subplot under the whole thing, which a lot of other kind of slashers ignore to some extent. And this is the idea that this particular journalist is anti-violence and certainly anti-gun, and is still questioning the whole idea of sort of either self-defense or vigilante justice. And there's a lot of commentary about, because William Shatner who plays Lee Grant's boyfriend, but also her TV producer. He's often like trying to push the angles and push the story and push the thing, and how can we spin it? Whereas she obviously she often has more integrity. And there's this nice idea, because almost the ultimate insult, the ultimate thing she has to undergo, the ultimate degradation she has to put up with, is that she is forced, merely because Michael Ironside just will not ever give up. Like all good slasher killers, they just keep on coming. She is forced to kill him at the end, like all final women have to, but in the tropes of the film. But because they've woven this nice thing throughout the film of her sort of, she was anti-violence, then she gets attacked. They're trying to spin it that maybe she's for self-defense, but she herself is kind of having her voice silenced by Shatner's relentless showman kind of thing. And then in the end, she has to commit violence. And it's this really interesting thing that a lot of slashers don't comment on, is this idea of, yes, you've been chased by a killer this whole time, but in order to defeat the killer, you yourself must become the killer. And I really like that aspect of Visiting Hours. They don't hit you over the head with it, but it's kind of in there. The other thing about Visiting Hours is that because Michael Ironside is so utterly, just painfully and disgustingly like realistic in the role, it feels far more horrific and insidious than most slashers, most either masked slashers or faceless slashers or nameless slashers, because the way he terrorizes, especially the women in the film, but the way he terrorizes his victims in the film is so sort of so heartless and so angry and so devoid of humanity. And the fact that he just likes to watch them die and take photographs of them as they die, and it's you almost don't need the whole, oh, I had an abusive father and I'm a bigot, Republican, right wing kind of person kind of spin on it. He is so just insidiously disgusting as a character, and the way he plays it is so fucking raw and real and mad that it just layers on so much horror that even though we've seen slasher killers like kill people, strangle people, set fire to people, push people out of windows, whatever it is, we've seen slasher killers do all sorts of stuff. It doesn't hit as hard as it kind of does in Visiting Hours, because it feels just so cold and calculated the way Ironside plays it. I mean, it's such a fucking tour de force performance, and I don't say that lightly. And then the other end of the spectrum is Shatner turning up to cash a paycheck, doing his, I'll just wear a velveteen jacket and basically be a bit of a lounge lizard TV producer, which I also thoroughly enjoy watching, but it's in no way it's horrific for another reason, is I guess what I'm saying. But I love Shatner. I do not apologize for Shatner at all, but he feels completely out of place in this otherwise very dark and fairly realistic, menacing film, which, yes, is called a slasher film, but it owes as much to Hitchcock as it does to, something like X-Ray or My Bloody Valentine. So I love this movie. And in fact, this is about my third viewing, and it only gets better and more kind of grotesque with each viewing. And Lee Grant's really good in it as well, because she has that kind of like quiet, determined strength, but obviously is also terrorized and just put through the ringer of it. In fact, everyone is put through the ringer of it. The abuse in the movie is pretty heavy. And I'm surprised this isn't cited more when those kind of violent rather than gory. I find this movie it's violent, it's insidious, it gets under your skin. It is gory, it's kind of realistically gory and kind of but it to me there's more of a pure violence to it, and I'm surprised it's not brought up more when discussing kind of those late 70s, early 80s kind of violent horrors. But I love it anyway.
Suzanne.
This has always been one of my favorite, and I agree with John. It kind of sucks lumping it in with the slashers, but this is one I can remember the first time I saw it. I snuck out of bed in the middle of the night while my parents were asleep and watched it on the big, ginormous console TV and prayed to God nobody woke up and caught me. So that was my first viewing of it, having no idea what the hell was actually going on. I was there for the murder at that age. Wow, that's really, really fucked up. Anyway, I think one of my favorite parts of this movie is actually William Shatner, because he does actually play this pretty straight. He doesn't, Shatner all over it. He's, pretty damn good in that role. And Lee Grant, of course, just amazing. But for me, like I said, William Shatner steals the show. But let's talk about Michael Ironside.
One quick point on what you're saying, Suzanne, is Shatner eating the yogurt at the end of the hospital bed is just an amazing scene. Love it.
It's kind of a dick move, actually.
I'm just gonna eat your yogurt.
He does play it straight. He's playing the part that was given him and not playing it as William Shatner. It worked.
No, totally. And the other trope of him, even though he's a TV producer, ending up being a de facto detective and going around with the police, even though there's no reason for him to be there. You know what I mean? Like he ends up like running the case with the police.
I think that one I kind of rewrote in my head because I think the police are going to use the news to try to catch this guy. And that was kind of his in. But yeah, he should never be going to that dude's apartment. But, you didn't talk about the one who actually, caught Michael Ironside, the little prostitute. And she fucked him up after she went and trashed his apartment, told the police on him. But, that's all beside the point. But what I can say about this movie that just genuinely keeps drawing me back into it every couple of years, it's just there's a brutality to it. A lot of the stuff from the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of it's done so tongue-in-cheek. And there's kind of that little edge of black humor to a lot of it. There is absolutely no humor in this whatsoever. These kills are bleak. They are painful to watch. There is just such a harshness and a meanness. And Michael Ironside pulls off that killer perfectly. There are parts of that movie that are still just very difficult to watch because he somehow looks like he is enjoying this. I haven't seen a lot of slasher movies where the person, playing the killer has completely pulled that off so much.
The one that stands out to me is, the one where he cuts off the lady's oxygen tube just to watch her die, Yeah.
Oh, when he goes and just shoves his hands up and just rips that dude's nose. Oh my God. Yeah, those are people.
He wasn't there to do that. That's not the whole reason he was there, but he's just like, oh, all right, well, as long as I'm here,
Yeah, may as well. And well, they're helpless because he likes to pick on people helpless. Women, the hospital, old men didn't give a shit as long as he could exert some form of power over them. He would just relish in the killing of them.
But I do like your point that the two women in it, the prostitute and Lee Grant, I like the strength and determination they show in the film.
They completely are his undoing.
Yeah, versus the sort of regular female victim in these films that often, until the final girl, end up being just people to be scream and to be killed. These seem more realistically drawn and more strong and more well-rounded, I feel.
Well, yeah, her character in the beginning, they hit around at it that she was very much a feminist, which really wasn't, I don't want to say popular, but it was still kind of the early 80s when, yeah, you can be a feminist all you want, just shh, don't tell anybody. But I love this movie. I just love the harshness, the brutality of it, the complete utter lack of any form of humor. That's one thing. I know there's horror comedies. I know there's tongue in cheek, but sometimes I just want a straight up horror movie without anything else. And the ending, I've always found the ending to be weird. Yeah, she finally kills him, but it's just so, after all of the stalking in the hallways and being chased, it just seems like it stops. It just doesn't, it's not a very fulfilling ending to me. That's just me. There's one little thing that I found at the very beginning after he stabs her, and then he stabs the knife into the wall and it's covered in blood. When he goes to pull the knife back out, there's no blood on it. I just caught that tonight.
Cool. Movie mistakes aside, Jamins, what do you think of the movie?
Oh, man. This is one of my essentials. And what that means is basically I will always own it in some form or another. This was a very special movie for my mom and me. And part of that was because Lee Grant was her favorite actress. Part of that is because we shared horror movies. That's what we did. So I watched this with her, and it was always just a favorite. Always. I love everything about it. I love Michael Ironside is one of my all-time favorite villains in this film. And it's one of those movies that I frequently quote in my head, like during everyday situations or whatever. I'll just pull little snippets out and run through them in my mind. If it fits the situation. Like, it's just one of those movies that always is on the forefront. And as a matter of fact, I had it on VHS for years. It was the big box VHS before it was ever released on DVD or Blu-ray. I had this VHS and I watched it so often that when I got a VHS to DVD recorder, there were two movies that I transferred to DVD because I watched them so frequently. I didn't want to, and these were original VHSs, and I didn't want to screw them up. One of them was this movie, and the other one was Rawhead Rex, but for totally different reasons. But
Rawhead Rex.
Yes, I love it so much. But this one scene that sticks out to me in this film is the scene where Michael Ironside is trying to get into the hospital. So he takes the beer bottle and he smashes it with his forearm. But it's the whole thing leading up to that, the popping the cap off the pills, drinking the pills, like taking his belt, and you can hear the leather when he's wrapping the belt around his arm to try to like tourniquet it. And you can hear the leather and how tight he's pulling it. And then when he just smashes down on the bottle and he pulls up his arm, and the effects are just astounding. Like, you can see the shards of glass coming out of his skin, and it's all bloody, and it's so well done. I just love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes just in anything. It's so good.
It's one of those effects where, because it looks so real and because it's so subtle, it's not overblown. It's not like he pulls his arm up and there's like blood pissing from it. It's just like it's dripping like it would, like It's realistic, that it wouldn't get noticed. Like, it's always the big, elaborate, and awesome, massively gory effects that obviously get all the praise. But like, something like that is so spine-tinglingly real and just especially after you've watched him do it, that needs to, like, that kind of level of effects needs to sometimes get the spotlight. I love that.
I absolutely agree. I wish, and that's a scene that no one ever mentions, and to me, it is just an incredible. It's a small thing, It's not like The Thing, where you have like all these fantastic practical effects, or it's not the transformation scene from An American Werewolf in London, but it's a very tiny thing, but it's so well done and believable, and it hurts to look at it because it just looks so real.
Well, it also feels like Ironside is, especially with the way that the camera is following his actions, it's almost like Ironside has said, and he can't have done because obviously they had to do effects and everything else, but like, it's almost like he went, just stay with me. I'm going to, like, just let me go with this and stay with me. And they just kind of find it's like at the very end where the camera finds the bottle or the broken bottle in his hand and stuff. And not at the very end, where he goes to tip the liquid out, and the camera like has to move to find the bottle as he tips the liquid out, because it's almost like the cameraman doesn't quite know
where he's going,
to do that or what he's going to do. Like, that actually is one of those things where handheld camera actually plays into it for me, because I'm kind of like, this feels like Ironside is just loose and it's like, I'm going to improvise something, guys. Let's just go with it. Like, it feels like he's really doing it, and it kind of adds something to the whole like madness of it all, really. And the fact that all the best villains in movies should be, and what Ironside trades on, in the same way that all good horror directors, you need to feel like you're in the hands of a madman, safely in the hands of a madman, but you need to feel like this guy could go off and do anything. You know what I mean? And they say that about like Carpenter as a director. They're like, you feel like, or Tobe Hooper, you feel like you're in the hands of a madman. Ironside is one of those guys where, as an actor, you feel like you're in the hands of a madman, and you know it's a movie, and you know they're acting, and you know he's a whatever. But like, it's just, he plays it so well. It's incredible. Sorry. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. No, I agree 100% with all of that. No one has mentioned Linda Pearl, and I think this is just as much her film as it is anyone else's. And we spend a great deal of time with her. I love her character. I love how caring she is. I mean, she's a good nurse, and she really gets involved with this particular patient because it happens to be her hero. But I love that, we sort of glean that she is from a rocky marriage. She doesn't get along with her ex. Her kids go visit him, but she's not fond of it. Excuse me, sorry. We find out a lot about her, and I love her character. I think all of these are solid characters, and that's the thing, is it's not like with a typical slasher film. You get to know a couple of them, and then the rest of them are usually just background people. But the thing about the cast for this film, or the characters for this film, is that you really get into all of these characters, at least a little bit. Even the Lenore Zahn character, the chick he picks up. Excuse me, my God. We get a taste of who she is, like who she hangs out with, the kind of things they do for revenge, things like that. The fact that she goes to the free clinic all the time, like we know who she is. And incidentally, this totally by coincidence, the last film that we talked about, I Had a Girl from Bloody Birthday, and Lenore Zahn is from Happy Birthday to Me, which is another film that I watch on my birthday every year. So that's just, we covered both my birthday films in a sort of a sideways way. But the scene with Michael Ironside and her, when we don't actually even have to see it happen. We see the aftermath when she goes to the clinic. But the way he brutalized her, like her back, that's horrifying. Another thing that always sticks out to me, and I don't know why really, but it is when he jumps out at Deborah and he's wearing all of her jewelry, and he snatches the earrings. They're like the clip-on earrings, and he snatches them off of his ears. Every time I've ever worn clip-on earrings, which isn't all that often because honestly they hurt. I like post earrings, but anytime I do ever wear them, whenever I take them off, I think about that scene. I think about that scene, and I also think about Linda Gray from Dallas, because she used to always take off her earrings when she answered the phone. But anyway,
you want to know what I thought about too, Jamie?
What?
I thought about he was one saxophone away from being that guy from the Lost Boys.
Oh my God, you're so right.
I still believe.
And I was so terrified for that parrot.
I'm glad the parrot lived.
Oh yeah. One thing I do think is kind of funny, and it's not meant to be funny, but it just always gives me a little chuckle, is when she is crawling across the kitchen and finds the dead maid, and then she's just like, ugh, and then just keeps going. Like, her reaction is, because we already know she didn't really like this maid because she's had it with her, but her reaction was so, it was kind of nonplussed. It was like, ugh, get out of my way. I don't know. I can just honestly just go through this movie scene by scene and be totally happy. I love it so much. I always recommend this film to people who haven't seen it. We did years and years ago on Devour. We did a slasher thing, like a slasher, where I brought several slashers to the table that I thought the boys should see because neither of them were like big slasher fans. And this is one of the ones I brought. It's always going to be a recommend from me. And I guess I kind of covered everything. I don't know. Love it.
I think the score did a real fine job of building tension and suspense in this movie, along with Ironside just scowling at the camera, which always works. He could do more with the scowl. There's a scene in this movie where she's stuck in her house. I forget somebody's stuck in her house. I forget, and it might even be Lee Grant. I forget now, but she goes inside the dumb waiter, which is the thing you can pull up and bring stuff from upstairs to downstairs. And he pulls her up by the rope, and he cuts the rope just so he can get a look at her, I guess, before he drops her down. And it seems like a nothing scene, but coming from Ironside, it just, the scowl says it all, and he uses it so well in this movie. He constantly has the full run of this hospital, and then no matter what he's doing and got going on, whether he's wearing the brown leather jacket, whether he's wearing like scrubs, whatever he's wearing in the movie, he constantly has the full run of the hospital, which just seems crazy since this is under high alert and high security because this famous reporter is just been attacked and she's here and yada yada yada. Shatner's just sleazy enough to be in this movie, and I kind of like that the yogurt scene you mentioned, him just, I'm sure she didn't want to eat at the time, but he's just like chowing down on her fucking food. She might want that shit later, you never can tell. It's pretty good. The end that Suzanne mentioned, which is basically her getting the best of him, but you get the final shock of him coming to, and I really wish it was a little more visceral, like maybe he attempted to like cut her Achilles tendon or something like that, just to make it a little more visceral, as if this film wasn't visceral enough, because it was the brutality of the movie. He doesn't let up. The movie doesn't let up. Although our nurse makes one cardinal mistake, I mean, she's probably almost fully aware that the killer is in her house because she receives a call from somebody, and they say the guy sounds real weird. She picks up the phone and she hears her child screaming. Don't know where he got the sound from, but she gets home. The child's safely sleeping in her bed, and so is her sister or whatever's she got going on. The one that is babysitting the kid, and she puts the knife. I think she's just
a babysitter.
Yeah, she puts the knife down on the shelf, which is a big mistake right there, because the killer is obviously in her house doing nefarious things, or could be, could not be. Still, protect your cub, mama. Hold on to that knife, because then you get stabbed yourself by the longest switchblade I've ever seen in a film, which is belongs to our man Colt is his name, I think, in this movie.
And that's another scene that to me is just, this film is full of amazing scenes, but that scene where he gets the better of her, he doesn't kill her, but she's down, and he steps out and immediately starts to go up the stairs, and the little girl is coming down. Your entire body like freezes because what could be about to happen. Do you know what I mean? Like they have so set him up so well, and he's playing it just so menacingly and without compulsion that when that little girl, when the babysitter shows up, you almost feel relieved because you're like, please not the little girl. Like, it's just such a well-crafted sequence.
Yeah, because at this point, though, he could be down for anything, really, if you think about it. That's
Well, yeah. I mean, he was just kicking her and taking photos of her on the ground. it's not, he wasn't even interested in killing her right away. He was torturing her. So, yeah, when he starts to head toward the stairs, you're just like, oh, no. Like, oh, God. Because he's already proven that he doesn't, he really does not value human life at all, you know?
I mean, I think it's another thing where, you know, I guess she's a prostitute, the girl he attacks, you know, because I guess she wouldn't give it up the way he wants to in his leather daddy mode. She mentions that he couldn't get it up. And I don't know if that was a passive thing that she said just to insult him, just to say, you know, yeah, he couldn't get it up. Maybe he could, but maybe that's a thing to where maybe he was sexually frustrated with, you know, and he could possibly not get it up. That's why he attacked her the way he did, and the fact that
might be why he hates women so much.
Could be. I mean, it's all
Well,
like
he's got to exert some kind of control over them, or it just nothing's going to happen.
Right.
The very phallic switchblade. You know, it could be. You never can tell, because that is his real weapon of choice throughout the entire film. He doesn't have another weapon. He doesn't have a go-to anything. It's just the switchblade throughout the film, and you would expect, you know, being in a hospital to be using. I'm not talking about like Maniac Cop 3 levels where you use the heart panel machines to explode somebody's head, but you'd expect a sociopath to his level to use whatever he can to do what he wants to do, but he just has this long switchblade. And the fact that that girl mentions that he couldn't get it up, like maybe that was a thing, because the way he brutalizes her is pretty bad. I mean, imagine if you saw the whole thing, it might look like that scene in Cape Fear, the remake of Cape Fear, where Bobby D attacks Atlanta Douglas, and but it was, yeah, that part, that little throwaway line made me think that maybe he doesn't like women for that reason, like he can't get it up. But then the whole thing
it's also super odd that as a child of abuse, having seen his father abuse his mother the way that his father did, and then even the mother like attack the father back, right? Doesn't the mother throw hot water on the father or something?
Grease, I think.
Yeah.
Or grease or whatever.
Like oil.
That he went the violent way rather than the protective way. You know what I mean? Psychologically speaking.
Well, they hit it that he was, you know, a little bit more in tune with his dad than his mom, and probably that was what he achieved to be, just this big, tough guy.
Yeah.
And the way his father viewed his mother was just weak and beneath him. I mean, it's implied heavily, and I'm probably adding to it.
Yeah.
But that's probably the way that went.
I have to mention the landlady, because I think if he would have gave the landlady some loving, she would have let him go on that rent a little bit. But she seemed to be devoted to my man the whole time, you know. No matter how much he scowled at her or fucked with her, or, you know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said that you had to give him some props for tolerating her, because that would annoy the piss out of me.
Well, he was just annoyed the whole time, you know. He ignored her, obviously, and it's a real small throwaway thing, but it just seems like the landlady was a little too much in love with old Michael Ironside there. But he had nothing. He wanted nothing to do with her, you know, to even look at her or whatever. But it's a real throwaway thing. But yeah, great film, very brutal film. So if you've never seen this before, get ready for that, because it doesn't quit, and it's not funny. It's just really, really brutal and hard to watch in parts. Like I said, the thing that got me probably the most is the scene with the old lady where he just cuts off her oxygen just to watch her die. He doesn't use the knife to stab her or anything. He just wants to watch that final death rattle, because he's that kind of sociopath. So,
but also, unlike a lot of other violent or exploitative films, while it is hard to watch, and I agree with you, it doesn't feel exploitative. It doesn't feel that there are any scenes in it that aren't just adding to, you know, either the story or the menace that he's bringing to the, you know, it's meant to be relentless and it's meant to be violent, but it's not, I never feel that I'm, as an audience, being, you know, it never feels over the top or exploitative in that regard.
Oh, I agree, man. I mean, it doesn't like gross me out. I mean, you're novice, you know, say, I'm going to watch a slash movie. Why not try visiting hours? I'm going to say set yourself up for something that takes itself really seriously and rightfully so.
100%, dude. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and I think that the warning is justified. I just mean that just as a general comment, it's not
gratuitous.
Gratuitous is the word. Thank you, Jamie.
That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. My brain has been mush for days now, so I don't have the vocabulary I used to.
Yeah, it's about covered here. I'm going to kick it to John. Anything else you'd like to say about the film? What do you give it 1 to 10?
I give it a 10 out of 10.
Beautiful. Suzanne.
Like I said, this is one of my favorites. There's just something about this movie, and I don't understand how it's been so underrated and overlooked for so long. People need to see this. If you can even say you're a slasher fan, this is a must see. There are other things out there other than Friday the 13th, which I love dearly. But these are the kind of movies that I really like. I am pretty much going to sit at probably a 9 on this one because it's damn close to perfect. The ending just irritates me a little bit.
Cool. Jamie?
Well, once again, John gave the correct answer, so it is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
You know how to play to my ego.
This is a perfect film for me. I just and part of that is obviously I think the emotional ties that I have to it because it was something that I shared with my mom, and that my mom and horror movies are like that's the whole reason I am who I am. So this was very formative for me, and yeah, But I second the recommendation if people have not seen it. I have run into a couple of people over the years that I've recommended it to, and they have found it boring.
What?
Sadly.
Yeah, I don't
understand that.
I don't understand it either. I just kind of moved on. I'm like, okay, then never mind. I don't.
If they want to see a boring slasher, there's about 50 I could name.
Yeah, for sure.
And I love slasher films, but there's a lot of boring ones out there.
Well, yeah, but this is not one of them, and I don't.
Not at all.
I don't get it, but I have actually run into that. So
I recommended From Beyond to somebody, and they told me, it's like, well, that was lame.
Wow.
Whatever.
Do you know I couldn't watch From Beyond for about probably about 15 years because it disturbed me so much the first time I saw it that his pineal gland.
I know.
That freaked me out so much that I refused to watch the movie for a very long time. And finally, when I bought it on DVD and I forced myself to watch it again, and then I've seen it a bunch since then. I love it. But it just for years, I couldn't go near it because it freaked me out that much.
And as it's come up, rest in pictures, Stuart Gordon. Man, what a crushing blow that was.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that is... He doesn't have like a huge long resume. He didn't make like 100 movies, but the movies he made, man, wow, what a legacy they are.
Each and every one of them memorable.
Every single one,
absolutely. Yeah.
Such a talent, and just by all accounts, a absolute stand-up geezer.
Yes, I give it a 9 as well. I mean, I love it. I mean, it hits every beat that it's supposed to hit. It's just yeah, the little bit at the end I liked, but I didn't like at the same time. So it takes a little bit off, but it hits so many beats, with the psychology of the killer, the kills itself being so brutal. Ironside, this film is, is either broken or made on his performance, and he knocks it out of the park. And 9 out of 10. Pretty good stuff. I'm gonna recommend it too. And,
I think that the mistake the ending makes is that as the credits roll, you see Ironside's face, and I think for it to hit home more about what I was saying at the beginning about the ultimate indignity she has to go through is the fact that someone with morals about violence and abuse
has to become violent.
I feel like there would be more emotion and energy and poignancy if it focused on her and her. Almost if she was like catatonic, almost if she was like, Barbara in Night of the Living Dead kind of thing. Even if she was so horrified by not only what she'd gone through, but what she was forced to do, I feel like there would be a way to drive that home better rather than just focusing on. I think they were trying to do like a Psycho Hitchcock thing, like kind of just having the face against the blank wall kind of stuff. But for me, I think they should have focused on Lee Grant at the end of it.
Yeah. Once again, just like in The Living Dead, Johnny does have the keys. See, he knows just what he's talking about, Johnny has the keys. Yeah. Oh, she's so fucking annoying. But I'm forgetting all that now. And
It's 10 minutes to 3.
Yeah. What one last point about Shatner eating all the food. I think that's probably where Brad Pitt got his entire career from. Just that scene right there.
Could be.
Because I feel like Shatner is being a proto-Pitt in that sequence right there.
Yeah, that's really something to think about. God damn it.
Except, what I realized when we watched Apocalypse Now the other day, because it's we're in the A's. And it just hit me that I think Brad Pitt totally got his 12 Monkeys performance from Dennis Hopper in Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yes, 100%.
I never, ever realized how dead on. But we just recently watched 12 Monkeys because it was, we went through the numbers before we got to the A's.
Because it's the end of the world, so.
Yeah. So, right. So we recently watched 12 Monkeys, and then we watched Apocalypse Now, and I was like, holy shit. It was dead on. I mean, just dead hand movements, gestures, everything. And I've never actually heard Brad Pitt say that, but that has to be.
No, actually, for 12 Monkeys, he actually did go to, because the Hamster Factor and Other Tales of the 12 Monkeys, which is a great documentary, actually shows him like literally sitting in with psychologists and witnessing like real schizophrenics and so on. But I think it's probably more the fact that Dennis Hopper was actually, not only like high off his tits on coke, but also just a little deranged in his own sweet Hopper way. And probably a lot of those mannerisms just kind of play into the same psychology of the people that Pitt witnessed in the documentary.
Well, that's possible. I like to think he was at least inspired.
Most everyone has been. Who doesn't love Hopper and just fucking full blood? Like the moment, because Kim got me this beautiful ultra high def TV when we first moved into our new apartment about a year and a half ago. And just putting a Blu-ray of Apocalypse Now on that beast and just fucking watching Hopper go nuts in widescreen. It's just glorious.
God damn, how beautiful is that movie too?
Oh, it's just
that is stunning.
I just fucking love that movie so much. I know all the shit that went into it. I know that everything that's wrong with it, but fuck me if that isn't a work of genius. It's one of those movies where I went up because I was making dinner at the time, and I went up to go to the kitchen, and Brian's like, "Do you want me to pause it?" And I'm like, "Yeah," because like it's one of those movies where you don't want to miss a frame. Right.
Like, you don't want to, because it's so pretty to look at, and it's everything is. And apart from that, there are the performances and the story and everything, but it's just stunning. I don't know. It just. And then you just kind of sit after it's over, just percolating on it.
And that's what they call these tangents, people.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. But up next, after all this long conversation, you get to hear Court and myself, at least, talk about Hellbound Hellraiser 2 on the Sloppy Second segment.
Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Time to play.
Hello, welcome to the Sloppy Second segment. I am Gary Hill once again. And with me, as usual, is Court Psyops. How you doing, sir?
I am feeling particularly sloppy this afternoon, evening, day, whatever you're listening to it is. Pretend that we are in the same time as you folks.
Is that because you're butt naked covered in hand sanitizer right now? Just thinking about stuff?
I just want to be pure. I just want to be pure.
And with us is somebody usually here on Sin and Beef, but she's here with us on the Sloppy Second segment. Suzanne is here. How you doing?
I'm good. Really sloppy here today, but it's rainy and shitty out, so I guess that accounts for it.
Yeah. It's kind of gloomy out, but yeah, here we are. Talking about gloomy films. We're going to kick off these Hellraiser sequels, and I know some of them are very bad, people, but we're sticking it out just for you, and I'm sure this has been done by other podcasts before. I know it has, but we'll hope to try to make it funny for you guys. And first one up, of course, is Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, brought out in 1988, not directed by Clive Barker, but directed by Tony Randall, who gave me a couple of my favorite cheesy movies of the 90s, including Ticks, and there's one more I know that I love that he made, Hello Cat.
I love Ticks. Ticks is great.
Ticks and Fist of the North Star he directed.
The live-action version of that?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even realize that. That's amazing.
So there's that. Your cheapo plot synopsis is this. Kirsty is brought back to an institution after the death of her family, where the occult obsessive head resurrects Julia and unleashes the Cenobites once again. That bloody mattress. Nasty as fuck. This, of course, brings back Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty Cotton, Doug Bradley as Pinhead, he's not called Pinhead until the next movie, Claire Higgins, Julia Cotton, Kenneth Cranham as the amazing Dr. Chenard, Imogen Borman as the very mute Tiffany. I think she talks once. I forget now. It's been,
She screams out the word no once, and that's about it.
So she's
and Mommy.
So she's
right, Mommy and no.
So she's like Caesar in a way, yeah.
At least in the first day of films, she's like Caesar.
Yes, indeed.
Caesar is home.
Barbara Wilde is replaced. Barbara Wilde replaces the female Cenobite. Simon Bamford returns as Butterball. Nicholas Vince as Chatterer. And that is where we'll stop. I'll kick it to Suzanne first, since she's our guest. Ask her what she thought about this one.
I love this movie. I think it goes hand in hand with the first one. And the gore, oh my God, the gore is so absolutely glorious in this movie. There is so much killing and blood and just stuff. There's little plot points that irritate me. Like when the doctor overhears Dr. Chenard bargaining to have the bloody mattress sent to his house, but yet he still turns around and takes Dr. Chenard back to Kirsty's room. Why would you do that? You know he is up to no good, yet you bring him back in. All right, whatever. They start hinting a little bit at Pinhead's origin story, with him in his uniform. And it's always one thing I've always liked to wish that they had played up, or at least did a real origin movie. which we'll get to talk about that one a little bit later. But this movie is always just, I can watch the two, one right after the other, and they fit together seamlessly. Naya, damn it. I love this. I think Dr. Chenard he's just gloriously evil, and bringing back Julia in the most bloody way known to man was just fun. I love this movie so very, very much. My husband hates it. He thinks it's terrible. He's like, how can Chenard take over? We've had a few arguments about it, but it's like, who cares? It's hell. It's like they're not the devil. They are, just random demons in their own, basically in their own hells. And I like Tiffany. I love the puzzles, but I have to admit there are times I find her incredibly irritating. And I know that's mean, but it's what I do. But I love the movie and the gore. It's just fantastic. This is a great sequel. And Hellraiser is one of those movies I'm usually really forgiving with the sequels in most cases. But this one's fantastic. This is the best of the bunch for me.
Spoilers to later episodes. I'm like that with the Children of the Corn sequels. So one of these days, people, I know Jamie has been thrown at the mouth to do them one day, so maybe she'll join us for those. Court, what about you, sir?
This is actually my favorite of the original trilogy thing before they expanded it into the fourth, and it's still my favorite pretty much of all of the films. A lot of the complaints that people have about the film and how the directions it takes, where they were going to have Chenard be like the new Cenobite, they had no idea the cultural impact the Pinhead was going to have, because they decided to go ahead and start making this film pretty much before the first one was even fully recognized and released. They knew they had something on their hands with the first one, and they started production on this, and they just didn't get the fever that people were having for Pinhead and his cohort Cenobites until the third movie came along. And then that basically is where a lot of people really went crazy for the whole Pinhead stuff. But the second movie, they initially planned and they thought that Julia was going to be our bad character, because more than less, she is the evil character in the first film. It's her and Frank working to get Frank flesh and to escape the Cenobites. The Cenobites are more or less a background character plot device. It's just that they're so striking and so horrific that they resonated with audiences, and they became this thing that people became obsessed with. And while you get a lot of great Pinhead and crew stuff, the thing that I think a lot of people hate is when Chenard just comes in and deals on them all and basically obliterates them, and then he becomes this Prince of Hell, and they have no idea why. But they have this whole setup that Leviathan wants to kind of clean house, and that the Cenobites have been doing things that they don't want. And Chenard, as far as I was concerned, became an extension of the Lord of Hell. And, Julia got what she wanted because she was going to be his minion. And Kirsty being Kirsty, she shows up and fucks everything up for everybody, because that's just what she does. She fucks up all evil intent. So, I mean, that never bothered me. I never had an issue with it. And I think they found a way to recoup it to bring Pinhead back, which we'll talk about when we get to the third one. But overall, I love everything about this movie. The gross out factor is intense. The actual physical effects that are put on the actress that plays Julia when she comes back skinless are so detailed and so vivid. Even I've got that Arrow Scarlet Box Blu-ray set of the first three, and that 2K scan reveals a lot of problems with some of the effects in the first movie. You can really see some seams and things like that. They still look incredible. They still look amazing. Don't get me wrong, but when you're really looking with the 2K scan, you can see a lot more of how the effects are done. And in the second movie, when that skinless Julia comes out from the mattress, there is very little that you can find in that detail. Yes, they took some poetic license on how areolas function on the muscle part of pectoral muscles, and they made breast pectoral muscles stick out like breasts do, which they don't. Yes, there's some issues there that they had to work around with a physical actress in a suit, but I mean, it still looks amazing. That sequence with the guy screaming, "Get them off me," where he's clawing at himself and carving himself up with the razor is still like just so fucking disturbing and just hard to deal with. And they just, I don't know, it's your typical part 2 sequel. You get this a lot where they just rush into production and they don't really hammer out a script and they just kind of go with it as they can. And while this may be a mess to a lot of people, this is a beautiful fucking mess to me. And I love this movie.
Yeah, me, this was probably, I saw this one before the first one probably. And I'm kind of glad I did, because Dr. Chenard as a man is a real scummy bastard, but Dr. Chenard as the Cenobite is fucking terrifying to like a 9-year-old's eyes, and even today, you know, when the part where he's revealed, you know, floating in the air by this claw, and you see him, and he makes that fucking noise, it still fucking disturbs me to this day, and
it's like this backwards playing. It's like this backwards playing discordant, like operatic singing. Mm-hmm. It's the noise that he makes. It's so otherworldly and weird, but it sounds like they're playing some opera singer backwards and throwing it through some kind of weird filter. And it's upsetting. Every time it plays, it's just upsetting.
I was listening to it today really, really loud. Sorry, Gary.
Okay.
And it was just rattling my windows. It was very, very, very creepy.
I mean, I love the Cenobites, you know, and all their glory and all their icon, you know, status, but I don't get that with them compared to Dr. Chenard. It is pretty terrifying, and yeah, that's a great element. I love the fact that the whole idea of him using the patients of his hospital to resurrect Julia, because nobody will miss him anyway. He's that scummy, he'll do that. He's just scummy all over the place, and you know, it's all about temptation after all, and curiosity, and he got this woman, he bought the bloody mattress, people, and resurrected Julia, and yeah, she's just as devious as ever. One problem I have with this film is that did they explain how she got the skin back?
Well, no. They did kind of, when they were using the patients for her to grow her skin back. They were using way more people than what Frank got. Mm-hmm. So they skinned Andrew Robinson's character of Kirsty's dad, and he was wearing the skin just as like a placeholder till he could get his own back.
Yeah.
That's why they did that. Where I think in this one, Chenard just kept feeding her people. Like, she had entire rooms filled with desiccated corpses that she devoured.
Yeah.
And like, you see the last little piece where she has this last little section of skin that's still open in her back when she kills that orderly that's helping Kirsty out because he's all hot for her.
Yeah.
And so that to me just signifies that they have sacrificed so many people, she grew her actual skin back.
Yeah, it's yeah, I never realized that, but yeah, now that you mentioned the little slit in the back, yeah, it makes sense now.
I mean,
yeah,
you have to fill in the blanks with your own imagination in a lot of cases with this movie, because it gives you tidbits and it gives you little visual cues. And that's what I have done most of the time when I'm watching this, is just basically filling in with the tidbits in my own mind.
Yeah. The mute girl, Tiffany, she was fine. This is a trope that's been used in many things. You know, the mute girl or the simple girl who's had some kind of trauma, or she has some kind of mental handicap. But in this case, she has some kind of trauma, which is really fucking bizarre, those flashback scenes. And using her, because of course she's good at puzzles, and she's good at figuring things out, so they use her as a catalyst to open that world, you know, once they figure out that she can do what she does. And so I guess she's not just a mute girl without a purpose. She has a purpose. It's just, when you get there, it really works. It does work. I mean, without her, you know, Kirsty wouldn't be ruining the day in this movie. So she has her part to play. I just don't like her character very much, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
They don't develop it well. It's another one of those things that they hint at. Like, her trauma is her mother brought her to Chenard because he's supposed to be a specialist. It seems to me that she is maybe like a savant and partially like autistic, or has something similar to that, where she has something where she was basically retreating into herself and playing these puzzles. Her mother brings her to Chenard, and then Chenard performs this unnecessary surgery pretending that her mother was a patient, and basically murders her mother or obliterates her mind. and then keeps Tiffany for himself locked up because of this long-term plan he's had to get the box opened and go in with Leviathan. So, I mean, her trauma is justified as to why she won't speak and all that. For me, anyway, just in the flashbacks that they show, because she gets like this brain surgery done on her.
Yeah.
And that thing where he's like devouring people's brains with that like, I don't know what to call it, but it looks like a drink mixer with like a blender blade on it that he's using. I mean, like, they use that visual cue of that thing pretty well. Like, whenever Channard gets put on that long extended tendril that comes out of the depths of hell that is supposed to be like, you know, a link to Leviathan, the thing that looks like a giant cancerous cock that has the same apparatus on the end of it, like the blender blade.
Yes.
That gets attached to his head. Like, that is a reference to all the people that he's probably ruined the lives of by doing that and destroyed their brains before it takes him over with that. Because he comes out and he's a Cenobite that is the Channard version of the Cenobite, but then that person who he was gets destroyed by that same means that he destroyed all those lives, because that's how hell works. The irony of it all, I guess.
Obviously.
Yeah, and then Leviathan takes over from that point. So it's Leviathan using a Cenobite carcass to kill everything else, is how I always looked at it.
Put that on the shopping list. Cenobite carcass. You know.
Well, that's a figure I would buy.
Put it in the oven. Put it in the oven at 375 for about, you know, I don't know. It's a.
Ooh, gonna have to stop you there. That's a Cenobite casserole. You got that backwards.
God damn it.
God damn it, Gary. Don't you know better?
No, I don't.
Can't send you to the store for anything.
I tell you. Continue what you were saying, Suzanne.
Oh, I was, you know, one of my other thoughts. I mean, you wonder if maybe he did something, because I can't even count how many movies where the doctor fucks up somebody's brain. You know, maybe he fucked her brain up, and I don't know. Just a thought. Little Tiffany's brain.
Oh, like he fucked up Tiffany's brain, but only left the parts that he needed for the puzzle solving, doing that same surgery. And
basically,
then when her mom found out about it, then he ground out her mom's brain just to hide up his fuck up, and he's been on the path ever since. I like that interpretation.
And then Bruce Willis shows up and takes her through Leviathan, and, you know, it's a guilty pleasure, Mercury Rising. I like that movie, but here we are. Yeah, again, Leviathan looks pretty great. I mean, the world they built, probably out of early 80s CG, mixed with some set places, and that looks real fine. I will say the makeups look really great. They really upped the makeup factor, because I imagine they had more of a budget, because Julia looks a lot more detailed than Frank ever did as a flesh suit, I guess I don't know what you would call that thing. It's just a underdeveloped body or something. Yeah, she looks a lot better, and the part where she's crawling out of the mattresses, and the look on her face is pretty devious. I kind of love it, and she always looks devious, though. I've always loved that character for that reason. She's just a piece of shit, and piece of shit through and through. You know, right until the end where the end of Channard's natural life, she betrays him, and just I guess to make Leviathan her own, but that don't work out for her either, you know. So, yeah, real fine follow up to an already great film, and I don't know if I agree with Court by saying I like it more than the original, because it's a really hard statement for me to make, but.
It's not better than the original film. I just prefer this one. It's just the one that resonates the best with me. That's all.
That's fine. I never watched the deleted scene that got restored with the arrow print. What's that all about? I don't even know what that is.
Oh, they go through the Kirsty and Tiffany are walking through the hellified version of Channard's insane asylum, and you see a bunch of different patients messing with the boxes with hooks in their heads and stuff, and then it goes into a room where the Cenobites are about to perform surgery. It's just basically the photo of the Cenobites in doctor scrubs that are covered in blood that makes it look like, you know, triggers a bunch of people's imaginations. It was on the back of the Hellbound Hellraiser 2 VHS box, even though that scene was never even really in the movie. Mm-hmm. And then when you finally find it, like what you imagined in your mind seeing that picture all those years ago on that VHS box is 9 to 10 times better than what it actually is there. It's literally just this quick scene of them going, "It's time for surgery," and then you just hear noises and stuff when they're dressed like that. It's nothing all that major. I mean, it's still worth seeing, and I'm glad Arrow restored it, but they didn't put it back in the movie because it just doesn't really add anything other than running time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good for talking about this one, and that sounds really insulting because I have a really good time with this. The conclusion is a lot of fun. It's a lot more satisfying than in the next movie, but again, Kirsty and Tiffany working together, sisters doing it for themselves to close up Leviathan real tight, and I'll kick it to Court first and ask him anything else you'd like to say about the movie. Where does he give it 1 to 10?
Yeah, like I said, this is my favorite of them. I really enjoy watching this one. It's probably the one that I have watched the most because it's, the actual time that they're in hell and the stuff in the asylum just resonates with me really well. I'm going to give it a full 10 out of 10 cancerous cocks digging into a Cenobite brain.
There you go. Suzanne.
I love this. One of my favorite scenes I completely forgot to talk about is basically when Shenard starts undoing the Cenobites, and you have your, as I call it, the torture wheel, and you just kind of go back and see them in their, human forms. That has just always been one of the creepiest things for me. I fucking love it. But yeah, this is like a 9 out of 10 for me, just because Hellraiser is a 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I second that 9, and you'll be surprised what my rating of the next one is, because it's going to be pretty close, people. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's almost perfect. It's pretty much on par with the first one. So you could do a lot worse than making Hellraiser 1 and 2 a double bill for Saturday night, which I've done before. So just throwing it out there. But yeah, this is it for this one. And as my buddy Eric would say, we'll see you all again in part 2. We're back. This is the end. The end with my friend John Cross. So glad to have him on. John, pimp your stuff, sir. Thank you so much again, man.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It's been an absolute dream. I love drawing movies with you guys, so this was fantastic, and two great movies. It's a great double bill. If you want to have a double bill of like mad sensational slasher and then deeply serious and Canadian slasher, you kind of can't go wrong with these two.
Deeply Canadian.
I feel like it's Canadian because it has a moral center. I feel like it has a conscience, which is what I think distinguishes it from a lot of American films. Anyway, but no, my shit. You can find all of my stuff at 2 websites. One is aftermoviediner.com, which will give you all the reviews, news, interviews, podcasts, and crap you can shake a stick at. And the other one is miskplumfix.com, which is miskplumbfix.com, which is where all my music is housed. We just updated it today to include the new album that I uploaded and the ukulele videos. But so aftermoviediner.com and miskplumfix.com will have all of your John Cross needs in 2 places.
Cool. Jamie.
Oh, well, most of my stuff can be found on Horrorphilia, like ABCs of Hidden Horror, which the brand new episode just came out as we were recording this episode. So the X episode of ABCs is out. You can also find me weekly on the Married with Children podcast that drops every Wednesday. And then occasionally we drop our Colossal Collection. There should be some of those coming out now that I have a little time on my hands these days. A little more time, anyway. And is that it? Is that all I'm doing right now? Oh, well, there's also a like in it that I have in the wink, but I don't know. I can't decide whether I want to release this one or not. I didn't really love it. But, well, it's just the movies were boring. It ended up, I thought it was going to be a really fun show, and then it ended up not being that much fun of a show, and maybe I need to go back and listen to it again and see if it's worth even throwing out there. But liking it will be there will be an episode of Liking It coming out at some point. I'm just not sure if it's going to be this one or not. So we'll see what happens with that. And that's me.
Suzanne.
An FW on Horophilia, covering snake movies. And don't miss my snake facts, because you get one that everybody's irritated by every episode.
Oh, yeah. Snake facts aplenty. She's a snake owner after all, and she's a snake enthusiast, if you will. You know, a reptile enthusiast. But, yeah, me, this show, Two Drink Venom commentaries, Burning for Springwood, can all be found on legionpodcast.com, along with some other great shows. Not just like great shows at Horophilia. There's other great shows at Horophilia as well. But, listen for the quarantine reviews. I've got a couple lined up with some people that you may enjoy. John, you're welcome. If you see me announce something you'd like to come on, or just like 35-minute reviews. Nothing this long and extensive. We have 2 out now, Fritz the Cat and Dead Time Storage that I mentioned earlier. We have one planned for Edmund, which is a lesser talked about Stuart Gordon film that features William H. Macy. I've talked to my friend Will from The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema, and I know Jamie will be excited about this. We're going to do Coward of the County as a quarantine
Yay!
review. Yes, Mr. Kenny Rogers.
I love that song, and I love that movie.
We'll see what else comes up, you know, for those, and could be a whole bunch, it could be very few of them. Yeah, that's all happening. Twitter GW, Twitter at Cinema Beef. If you want to, Bo has something going on as like a relief fund for the people out of work to help our fellow Legionnaires. So if you want to go check that out, I'm sure I could play the promo on some point in time during this episode. You probably heard it already. That helps. More important than the Patreon at this point. A lot of our folks are not able to work from home. And again, thank you to the first responders, your grocery store clerks, your medical professionals, all you people. And hotel workers. I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding.
Jesus Christ.
Although I may have been exposed today.
Oh yeah.
Or this guy that was there, he actually checked out today. He was like, "Oh, I think I've been infected." He had some symptoms, and he hadn't told anyone while he'd been, milling around the hotel all this time. So we'll see what happens.
I'm hoping for not. Okay.
Well, so am I. Yeah. So am I.
I like you this much. I can't. I see my hand sticking out right now. But I love you this much, and I want nothing bad to happen to you. Okay, Well,
I hope not as well. Now, I have been very careful. We have been taking this whole thing very seriously, and we've been very careful about it. So, we at the hotel and we at home. So, I think the chances are pretty low, but what I don't like is that he flew home today.
Great. That makes me feel great about Pat going out of town next week.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Yeah. Oh, I know. No. That's serious, because some dumb shithead is going to do this.
And I'm just like, why? Why would you do that? And of course, I guess he has to get home, but I don't know. It's just, you're in a tube,
Yeah.
I know. It's. Well, hopefully,
are they screening people before they go on to flights? And I know that doesn't mean anything because there's the whole 2-week thing. So, honestly, we're all exposed and probably don't even know it, but are they, I wonder, screening people?
I don't know.
I don't think so, but somebody was out of town this week for a few days and said that the planes are empty.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes
a lot of people, hopefully this guy kept his distance, social distancing, washed his hands, coughed and sneezed into his elbow, and did his best not to expose somebody.
He was whenever he would see, I would pass him in the hall and such, and he would always, he's like, I can go the other way if you want, or, I'm like, he would try to keep his distance, and I'm wondering if planes are maybe practicing social distancing when they book flights, or are they forcing people to, are they only allowing people every like one per row or something like that.
I have no idea. I wasn't happy about if he went last week, they were going to drive. And this week he's flying. I'm just not really uncomfortable because I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of days. I don't know if they're going to start shutting everything down or what the hell is going to happen.
So what we're really saying is don't get exposed and don't expose yourself to someone unless you have their consent, okay? Just, you can do that if you want to. I don't know, but, yeah. That's it for this one. I'm going to leave the corona alone and say this has been the Sin Beef Podcast, where if you got beef, we've got the grinder. See y'all next time. Next time. Next time. Next time. Next time. Next time. Next time.